Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to day 2 here of the RSL Season 3. I'm Tasteless. With me is State. How you doing, buddy?
Feeling pretty good, Tasteless. We had an exciting day number 1 with 2 Protoss players advancing. Max Pax made it into the playoffs, and joining him is going to be Zound. And today, I get a feeling we're going to be sending some more Protosses in because we have classic creator Trigger. 3 Protosses going up against Cure here in the second part of the group stage as we roll on through here in the round of 16.
Yeah, going to be a very Protoss-heavy day here. Let's see if Cure can pull through, though. Cure's really strong. I feel like a lot of times he is, number 1 or number 2 Terran in the world, really, and just how well he's able to execute stuff. And, as far as matchups go, he's only got one matchup to work on, one matchup to prepare for. So I'm curious what he's going to be bringing out here. But, yeah, I mean, a very scary triple Protoss lineup.
Yeah, already. I'm a little bit concerned, though, because, PvT, it's been quite dangerous for Terrans, especially on the previous patch. Protoss has really figured out how to use energy overcharge to the best of its ability and capitalized on that to an extreme degree, it felt like, in PvT. And that has been walked back a little bit with the balance changes that we've had since then. But, Cure, he might have been, for a long time, the greatest TVP player in the world, but he hasn't really had that form so far. It's been, I want to say years, maybe 2 years now, since he's really been talked about as the ideal TVP guy. Now you want to learn TVP, you look at Clem.
Right. I mean, with Cure coming in here, too, there's also a possibility we have a lot of TVPs here, possibly 3 TVPs total here. This is our schedule, so we're going to be on tomorrow and the day after. Now, next week, just to be clear, this RSL, it's actually the same size and scope as previous seasons, but we've had to smush week 2 and 3 together. We thought there was going to be a major Chinese offline event that would be conflicting with our finals, and obviously we didn't want to overlap with them, so we basically made each of the days for next week double days. Now, that tournament was canceled, but we just decided, okay, we've already committed to the change. Let's just go ahead and go through with this. If you want to watch next week, tune in early, 16:30 p.m. KST. Just Google or ask an AI what time that is for you. And we're going to be having basically 2 broadcast days in a row with a short break in between.
Yeah, in previous seasons of RSL, I think it was 2 best of 5s per day, but next week it's going to be, 4 best of 5? So there's going to be a lot of StarCraft for you guys to watch. It's going to be a marathon. We hope you join us, and we want to welcome, again, Archon Studio here in Season 3, our official partner for the RSL. They are creating the StarCraft tabletop miniatures game, and we actually got one of the boxes right here before it reaches the market. This is an exclusive item, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, they've done a great job. This is the first item they have. This is Zeratul here. There's obviously a lot more to come. And go to their website. They've got a ton of great products, not even just the StarCraft stuff, but everything else they've got on there. Really cool stuff. And I really do think they're doing StarCraft justice. In how it looks so much like what you see in the game, staying true to the lore, staying true to the look, and we appreciate them supporting us.
And, of course, we welcome you to join our community on Patreon.com and support us as well. We have a ton of different tiers available for you, whether you want to just follow for free and receive news about the RSL. If you want to give $5, $25, $100, or another tier, you get awesome perks like tickets to the RSL offline finals. You can get voting rights for the players playing in the tournament, for the maps that they play on in the tournament. There are all sorts of good goodies, such as even the maps, man. We get the replay packs released alongside all of this. It's an awesome package. We invite you to join us.
Yeah, we appreciate it if you would join us. We've got merch that you can also partake in if you want to support us that way. 20% off if you are a Patreon supporter. Go to tastelessthreads.com. And it's not just merch that you can get. We are also selling tickets. So we're going to wrap up Season 3. We'll have our 3rd player that's going to be in the Final 4 for the offline event that we're doing in December. This is what the tickets are for sale for. Day 1 is going to be the LCQ, the last chance qualifier. We're going to have everybody going at each other's throats to try to get that final spot. And then the second day, we're going to have a huge Final 4 where everybody's going to be duking it out. We've got premium tickets, we've got standard tickets, so whatever you think makes sense for you. As a reminder, guys, we did post that if you want to come in and play in the LCQ, you can. You have to have already played in a previous season of the RSL. We've got a few people already filling those slots in
a season or in the qualifier trying to get into the season for an RSL.
Correct, yes. Thank you for clarifying that. It's going to be here in Seoul, right by Yeoksam Station. We've scouted out a great venue for this. We're really looking forward to having this here. And yeah, if you want to compete, all you have to do is have played in a qualifier. And, you know, there's not a ton of these offline events anymore for StarCraft II, so we're happy to try to put that together for you guys. And whether you want to play or you want to come down and watch, we hope to see you there. And if not, we'll see you online.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun final day. As Classic and Creator getting ready right now for match number 1 here in Group B of the RSL. Tokamak Winter Madness and Evil Heart coming back here for set number 3. Should we go the distance? PvP to kick things off. 3 Protosses in this group. It's going to be a lot of Protoss action, and our countdown's underway. We're going to be jumping into set number 1 in just a minute. Classic, the GOAT of RSL so far here in 2025. Can he make that happen again in Season 3?
Let's see, man. Creator always a threat here, but never the guy that usually takes the whole thing. Classic, pretty on top of everything Protoss right now. Obviously, we're going to go into a new patch, and even in mirror matchups, that could affect how people play the game. So let's get into this. We have Classic here in the top right and Creator in the bottom left.
Yeah, Classic, the red Protoss here in the top right. Reigning champ of the RSL 2 times over. We'll see if he's able to make that magic happen again. But in the competition, it keeps getting more fierce here in the RSL. And this is a very stacked Group B with both Creator, Trigger, and Cure all waiting in the wings, trying to knock Classic out. I feel like it would be a very big upset if Classic was eliminated here. I think he's by far the favorite to advance from this group. But Creator, again, he's one of these players that absolutely is no slouch. If someone's going to upset Classic, it very well might be him.
I feel like for as long as I've casted Creator, I've always kind of rooted for him. You know, like he's not that he's always the underdog, because he is, like I said earlier, like a real threat. He can definitely take anybody down, but he doesn't ever seem to have the right formula to go all the way. Like, I would love to cast StarCraft II for long enough to where I'm casting Creator win like an RSL or a GSL or an EWC or something like that.
Yeah, he's a very emotional player, and I think that most of us can relate to that in some degree. Especially for... It's usually the pros who are very calm and collected under situations, but even semi-pros and folks like me who are more casual and just play on the ladder for fun, we all experience the frustration of losing and the joys of winning. And Creator, he really just wears that on his sleeve. Like, he doesn't hide it at all. He's very honest about his emotions, and it makes it easy to cheer for him.
You know, my brother and me were both super emotional players when we competed. I would lose my mind when I didn't win a tournament. I would cry or I'd be so angry. So I kind of empathize with that, from Creator. But I agree with you. It does seem like the players are a little bit less emotional about the entire experience, tend to kind of be able to, not get caught up in the feelings, and instead kind of focus on what they're trying to do and trying to execute it. So in this game, we do have the branch off in the builds. So it's 2 Adepts here for Classic, and it's going to be a Sentry and a Stalker here for Creator. He is throwing a Nexus down. I think I can see on the minimap, it looks like Classic is going to be, at least he's making it look like he's going to be doing that, but we don't have the Nexus just yet.
Yeah, both players likely going into an expansion here. We do have a pylon block on both sides, and this is typically a very good play against an Adept opening. Now, because Creator went for the Stalker and the Sentry, he should be able to deal with this pylon quite easily, but for Classic, you notice he's not attacking the pylon with the Adepts just yet because he doesn't want to reveal them. He wants that pylon to get canceled because the Adepts will take forever, and it does get canceled. That Nexus will be thrown down now, by Classic. So luckily for him, he is still able to get this expansion up in time. And I wonder where these Adepts can get done. Players have gotten so good at just blocking the ramp in clutch timings with shield batteries or with pylons to prevent these shades from getting into the main base.
Yeah, I remember the day that people figured this out.
Yeah.
And it was like suddenly the whole game changed when people realized that you can block the shades, or you can block an Adept with another Adept shade as an example. I always feel like that's what makes an RTS good, is when they're all the properties of each of the units and whatever states they are like very specific and different, and then you can kind of take advantage of that and do interesting, crazy things with it.
Yeah, there was even a couple of weeks I was playing on the ladder when people were starting to use pylons to block the Adepts, just because it's the most natural building to make in that kind of situation. But then everyone just switched to the shield battery and it's a no-brainer. It just takes longer to warp in than a pylon. It gives you way more time blocking the ramp for the same amount of minerals than a pylon does. But yeah, it is fun. PvP's had some kind of wild evolutions in Legacy of the Void over the history of StarCraft II, going from not having any Wallen to walling in versus Adepts.
I was going to say, he can kill that Adept in time. That's kind of annoying. You don't want to drop that too early. We have a Warp Prism coming here from Classic. I think he's just going to load that up with 4. What does he have 4 of, actually?
I think it was just going to be 4 Adepts, but he might need to warp in another one now that he got caught out.
He could send that across the map and then warp in some with the Warp Prism if he needs to. And yeah, I think that's what he's going to do. So he's going to send that out. I guess you could even do that. You could have done the drop with just the 2 Adepts, too. I mean, if you can get any probes early in a PvP, a lot of times that's all you need to kind of get that momentum on your side. The Hallucinated Phoenix scouts the Robo, and so you know what kind of game you're going to be in. Creator throws his Robo down as well. I don't necessarily think that's in response to seeing the Robo there, but Creator's, the opening he's done is very different. He's gone for Blink, for defensive purposes, and obviously it's going to be handy later on if it's time to attack. And I think that's why most likely this Warp Prism probably isn't going to do very much.
Yeah, Stalker's able to shoo that away over here on the left side, and Classic's going to pair this up with another Adept run by into the natural expansion, but those shades do get canceled. Not going to commit as Crater is well positioned, and Crater now seeing the 3rd base come in very quickly here for Classic, and Classic still has not thrown down a Twilight Council. He is playing without Blink. He just now starts warping it in, and so his army is going to be very strong. There's going to be a lot of Immortals added into the mix here, but it won't be very mobile, and that is a weakness that Crater might be able to exploit.
Yeah, so the Expos are going to come up here. The first Forge comes down for Creator. We're going to see if Classic will have his own Forge to match that or not. And, it's been a little bit of a slower kind of development game here. Classic's going to have more Immortals always because he got his Robo out first, unless he decides to stop making Immortals at any point in time. And that's going to be a problem for Creator, who's mostly Stalker heavy. We got Adept Glaives coming up here from Classic.
Yeah, I was wondering if this was the route we're going to go in. With the Immortal production starting so early, this has the potential to build up to a really crazy timing attack. And I think this Forge being thrown down here by Classic is actually a little bit of a feign. He wants to make Creator think that he's trying to play a longer, more macro game, and that's what the Forge indicates to Creator, but it's a red herring. That's not actually what's going on. He's throwing down additional gateways, he's getting glaives. Classic is building up for a very potent timing attack, and it's going to be hard for Creator to stop. But Creator, it looks like he's getting a lot of the pieces of the puzzle to deal with it. He's getting Templar Archives, Archons. They don't take bonus damage from the Immortals. They also don't take bonus damage from the Adepts, and they do a ton of damage versus the Adepts as well. So there is room for Creator to have enough units to be able to hold on against this, but it's such a tough push to stop.
Yeah, he's going to hit really hard here when this Glaives is done. 6 more gates are warping, and he didn't see the cluster of 4 to the bottom right there. And so it's all going to come down to whether or not Creator is ready to deal with this. This is like hitting right in the mid game here. You can see the Creator, he's got bigger plans basically. With the tech he's trying to get into, he's getting Archons, he's getting Zealot Charge. But this is going to be a bit of like an interruption push in some ways. So he's going to try to warp that in. And, anything you can snipe on the map early on before the push hits is going to be big.
Yeah, and Creator absolutely knows what's happening right now. He spots all these Immortals, all these Adepts. Can only mean one thing. It's going to be a Glaives push here at the 3rd base. Force Field's coming in. That will take down one Zealot and bruise one of these Stalkers. But more importantly, it's taking over this position here for Classic. But these Archons really throw a wrench into the mix. You can see it getting shuffled right now into the Warp Prism. Even the Charge Zealot's actually getting some good value in. Blink forward by Creator. The Warp Prism goes down. Archon drops on the flanking side. Even the Probe's getting pulled. But is it going to be enough? Classic still just has so much Tasteless.
Yeah, I mean, he's got most of those Immortals still alive. GG, just too much. One of the ways you can tell a battle's going really badly is when all the key units are all very low in HP but not going to die. You got to try to pick those off and wipe them out. 4 Immortals still alive there in the end. Really sharp timing push there from Classic. Creator not quite ready for that. I do feel like when you see an army like what Classic had, your best play is going to be to have perfect force fields, because you don't have anything. Classic, it doesn't have anything that can stop the force fields, right? Archons flatten that, so you can kind of pick and choose how the fights go. But yeah, it was actually Classic that threw his force fields down first and kind of got into a good position. Even then, I don't know if he would have survived, though.
Yeah, I wonder if Creator was able to hold that position, if he didn't get pushed back by the force fields and Classic just kind of catching him a little bit off guard, if he could have leveraged the 3 sentries that he had to do what you said and just buy himself some more time, because say he gets a couple of shield batteries up, maybe a couple more photon cannons there at the 3rd base, he can warp in 1 or 2 more Archons, he might be able to buy enough time to actually stabilize there at the 3rd. The Adept army, it's very strong, it's very scary, but it doesn't scale particularly well, at least not against Archons, not against static defense like that, but in any case, Classic, that was beautifully done. The Forge, I think it was an awesome move. It made it a little bit trickier there for Creator. We had a couple of photon cannons get thrown down, but I think they weren't even there to try and absorb the impact of this. They were just trying to defend against potential DTs or some other harassment.
When you see a Forge and you see the upgrades going, that is supposed to telegraph to the other. I mean, that's the part of the strategy in this case, is to telegraph, oh, no, I'm actually trying to develop. I'm not trying to end this game all at once. So it was like a pretty good, like you said, like a red herring, some false information. And that only works against really good players, right? Like bad players, they don't even really see everything they scout. You know what I mean? That's like me in a lot of my games.
It reminds me of watching Sartosis' stream. It's like, I played better, but he was too stupid. Yeah. If he was a little bit smarter, I would have won.
But yeah, I mean, it basically worked. Creator thought, okay, I'm safer than he thought he was safer than he actually was, and the push came in there and punished. So we're going to go into game 2 now and see if Creator can Creator can come back. Or if Classic is just going to close this one out 2-0. Classic, by the way, this has really been his year so far. Just playing incredibly. And, one of the big questions I had for myself was, how is he going to look in the new patch? Because we do have players that seem to be, like, they have, like, their moment in their patch, right? Like, the game, everything that they do kind of gels with them or how they play. But, let's see how Classic handles this as we move forward here.
Yeah, the previous patch, without a doubt, that was the Classic patch in my mind. Just forever in StarCraft II. The energy recharge thing, nobody used that better than Classic. He went from being one of, like, say, the top 3, top 4 Protoss players in the world, no question, to just the undisputed leading trendsetter for the entire race for what felt like almost an entire year. It was wild what Classic was able to do, and it wasn't just in one matchup either. He was winning in PvPs, he had the best PvZ, he also had the best PvT, and he did it also by reinventing his playstyle a little bit. You think of Classic from, nearly a decade ago, when he was at his best, and he was kind of a jack of all trades. He had the Swiss Army knife of builds, he can come at you with absolutely anything, and I wouldn't say that he's like a one-trick pony in matchups nowadays, but it certainly has seemed like with age, he's focused on what he does best a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like in PvTs and PvZs especially, you have a much better idea of what Classic's going to bring to you in 2025 than you did a very long time ago when he was also near peak form. And it's typically something very macro-focused. It's something that's very hard to topple.
Sorry, did Classic actually scout Creator, or was it just...
We have the probe in the main base, but Creator, I think, just is hidden this pylon there on the left side.
That's what I was going to say. So let's see if he uses this pylon. There is something to be said about just hiding a pylon if they see the pylon's missing and maybe making them overreact. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I
but
love
that's
doing
not
that.
what this is going to be. So it's going to be Creator with the proxied Stargate. Now, Classic did see that there was a missing pylon. And that is one of the things you look for when you scout their base, is you count the pylons. And so he's going to start to move around the map. Now, I will say, this is a very scoutable hidden spot if you know there's something hidden, right? I mean, generally you kind of comb around the corners. I think sometimes the hardest proxies to find are the ones that are sort of hidden in the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think this might be a good thing, though, even though it's in a very good spot and it's kind of in an obvious spot, because this is just a brand new map. I'm not sure how many games they've played here on Winter Madness. Oh, the Stalker is actually going to spot this, but maybe it won't.
Wow.
The Shift you actually not going down here just yet. Classic now manually controlling, but he's not going there to the obvious spot.
Wow.
On the left side. I like mixing this in. I like getting really bold and really risky with the proxy on a brand new map in the pool. This is the time to do it.
Yeah. No, I think especially whenever you've got like a new map that you're on, that's when this stuff is the most effective, right? Eventually, everybody's kind of seeing all the hiding spots.
Oh, no shield battery here in the mineral line of Classic, and the Stalkers also, because of those Adepts, were for a long time outside of the main base. So Oracle's already done for Creator. It's going into the main of Classic now.
I was wondering if he was going to save it for 2 Oracles. Is that better? You just always want to send the first one?
I think if he made a shield battery at 2 would have been better, but this is catching him so much off guard that I think it's absolutely worth it. That's 6 probes going down. A quarter of Classic's economy here in the early game.
So 6 kills is a lot, and Classic's going to be limping into the rest of this game. Looks like we're going to see actually an Adept get killed here too. So I mean, things are going really well for Creator. He's going to come in for a second dive, and he kind of overextends. He goes for the tag, which I think is probably a good move. You can at least see, okay, are the Stalkers going to leave or not? Meanwhile, we've got this Oracle coming in here, and he only is going to get 1, losing about 75% of the hull, the HP there. So he's got to be very careful with that in the future.
Yeah, Classic just not really able to find very much damage with his own Oracles. And Creator, I was watching the production tab, he actually made a Phoenix of his own. So Classic's Oracles, for now, they are going to retreat back home. Creator actually able to break through up the ramp. This is going to be even more probes going down. The Oracle's going to add a lot to this, but with double Oracle coming in from Creator on the left side, he's just going to sack him, I think. 6 probes in total going down. The Phoenix eventually will be able to chase this down, and Six probes for 2 Oracles and 4 Adepts on paper, that doesn't sound very good, but after you've already killed so many workers from your opponent, I actually don't mind this that much.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a number of probes where you get low enough that you can kind of throw everything at them, and it doesn't matter if it's an inefficient trade, but let's see what the counterattack does. By the way, I think this is the only thing that Classic can really do, right? Yeah. You can't just stay back and try to win the race from behind. You got to come back here and try to initiate.
But with so many Stalkers out for Creator and the shield battery nearly done at the natural expansion, I'm not sure that Classic will be able to get very much done. He can lift one of these Stalkers and just take it out of the equation here with the Phoenix, and he has those double Oracles for exit damage either in the main base or in the natural expansion. What is he going to use them for? He's still biding his time. Engagement happening here. Now finally those Oracles going in the main base, and Creator so patient, despite having this army on his doorstep, was waiting to defend against these Oracles in the main.
Okay, this is a lot of Stalkers, but I think barely Creator has enough. Like, the shield battery is going to save the day. The Oracle, I think if he can angle that Phoenix right, I think he's going to lose it, actually. He's trying to basically intercept it while it's going to make kind of an L-shaped turn. He's going to catch it again. Is this enough damage, though? Okay, he's just going to sacrifice the Phoenix to kill the Oracle, barely, by the way. And, you know, for now, it's going to be... by the way, Classic actually caught up in workers.
Yeah, 2 things were very impressive to me during that whole engagement. One is that Classic didn't stop the probe production. He's actually just been chrono boosting them out to try and close the gap because he realized he might not be able to get the damage done that he needed. And 2, Creator, despite having that army at his doorstep, was so safe and so conservative with his Stalker positioning, just knowing that there were still 2 Oracles on the map. Had Classic gotten into the main base of Creator with those 2 Oracles, if Creator threw everything to defend the natural expansion, I honestly think Classic might be ahead in this game, but now we're actually stabilizing and in some miraculous way into almost an even mid-game. Creator definitely does have some advantages, but Classic right now with a higher worker count, he's going into the Robotics Bay a little bit faster, he's adding in the Gas Geysers a little bit faster, the natural expansion as well. It's kind of a toss-up in terms of who is ahead here, which is not really what you expect after such a chaotic early game.
Right. Well, you know, Classic, he's so good at stabilizing. We've got Creator sharking around the outside of the map looking for a fight. You know, this could go either way depending on the control here. There's more Stalkers coming up.
And no blink for Classic.
Yeah, Classic, he may be going in too deep here. Now, there's more Warpins behind. Creator is going to push in. Again, blink is about 80% finished. For Classic, I should say.
Yeah, pretty good engagement there for Creator. Able to get a lot of damage done. And Classic, I also like him just committing to holding the top of that ramp. He knows that he kind of has one arm tied behind his back there going up against Creator because he doesn't have blink research just yet, but standing the ground and maintaining that high ground vision is going to help him a lot in stabilizing and taking this 3rd base in just a moment, especially with blink about to be done.
Okay, so these Stalkers are going to try to push this away. It's 3 bases for Creator. Classic hasn't done anything yet. He's getting his Immortal out. So, you know, in some ways, this game is a little bit like the last one where we have Creator investing basically in a much... beautiful Warpin to block that. Oh my god. It's going to force a recall. It's going to be Creator kind of investing in the future. I thought maybe Classic might go for 2 bases, but I was wrong about that because the Nexus has just started here. So Classic's going to be playing a little bit from behind here.
Yeah, Creator used that faster blink and the map presence it gave him to secure this 3rd base much more quickly than his opponent, but It's still a remarkably close game right now. Forge getting thrown down here by Classic. He's going into charge, so we will not be having that same adept play that we had there in game number 1. And both players right now just adding in some additional gateway units. 3 more Stalkers warped in there by Creator, or by Classic, excuse me. Creator just adding in a Sentry, make sure that he has some scouting information. Energy recharge might not be as good as it was in the previous patch, but still very useful for charging up that Sentry and getting scouting with hallucinations.
So these Adept's going to come in here. He's going to get a couple probe kills, nothing too significant for the time being. And we're going to see what kind of late game tech each side is going for. Once again, Classic continuing to accumulate a lot of Immortals. And it does seem like Creator kind of wants to go, at least it looks like, for that Zealot Archon later game tech here. He's moving across the map. I don't know if this is a good time to attack here for Creator, just with the Immortals coming up, but let's see.
Yeah, the armies are pretty even. Guardian Shield going to be used here by Classic. That mitigates a lot of the damage there from those Stalkers. Blinking forward is Classic. He actually takes down the War Prism, I think, with 1 or 2 units still in it as well. Creator does have the larger army here on the ground, but Classic, he has the high ground. He has the 1 Immortal. His composition is just a little bit better, so Creator for now is going to retreat. And at the same time, in the natural expansion here, Creator, I think we might have some harassment taking place. Workers vacating his 2 Adepts, able to push them out. They're even getting to the main base here, so a lot of disruption on Creator's side of the map.
Yeah, you know, I really do question Creator trying to push out over there. I just don't feel like he had anything tech-wise that gave him an edge, right? So anyways, Creator's going to continue to expand again. We're getting into the further along macro games.
What is going on with this probe?
This probe is epileptic. So, you know, things quiet down, at least for now. The worker count's a little bit behind here for Creator. I think Classic played the mid-game really well, not just in winning that attack and sniping the War Prism, but having the 2 pairs of Adepts at the main and the natural, and doing a lot of damage there. Big gateway explosion coming here for Classic. He's going to get 5 more gateways, and his Templar Archives is almost done. I didn't actually see, did Creator finish his Templar Archives?
I think he doesn't have one.
Okay.
Both players are playing 3 gas, so there isn't a lot of room for Templar on either side. You're mostly just going to be building the Zealots and spending the gas on things such as upgrades and robo units, but yeah, no Templar just yet here for Creator. Classic will be adding in a couple of Archons at least, I think. And it's almost unbelievable that we're arriving at this point. Classic lost 12 probes in the early game, let me remind you. And somehow now we are on 4 bases, 11 minutes in. The supply's almost identical. And Classic has a 6 worker lead. 16 probes in total going down there for Classic.
So it's really heating up here. We're going way into the late game. We've now got Creator beginning to push on the map again. He's got a lot of Zealots here. His Templar Archives is on the way, so there's no Archons with this. And he's going to try to come up here and hit. We got to see the angling here. You know, one of the weird things about in StarCraft II with Zealots, with charges, like it's one of the few things you can't really control. They kind of like just decide where they're going to go, and a lot of times you got to hope you have to. The only way to deal with it is to like have a good setup before they hit. So they get yeah. So you got to have the right angle to come in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Creator's got a ton of Zealots, so I'm imagining he's going to try and find a surround with these. But it's a little bit scary for him because Classic, he has that faster Templar Archives, which doesn't indicate too much in terms of composition. But notably, he took the 2 gas geysers at that 4th base. So his gas income is actually a lot higher than Creator's right now. And that means in a couple of minutes, once Classic is no longer supply blocking, warping some more units, he's going to have a lot of Archons going into a mix against a Creator who just has mass Zealots.
Yeah, he somehow did not get spotted by the spotter Zealot over there. And we're just seeing both sides power up. Now, Classic is going to have Archons out here. I didn't see how many Creator had.
Very few. He's still only on 3 gases.
I think at this phase of the game, the most important thing to have is a lot of Archons, because that's what's going to obliterate all the Zealots, right? And you know, usually in PvP, it's who can wipe out the wall of Zealots first, and then all the important damage dealers are kind of behind that, right? Like, Zealots are sort of these spongy meat shield units that allow everything else, the Archons, the Stalkers, Immortals behind them, to do the damage. I love this. The handful of Zealots being sent over here into these mineral lines is big.
Yeah, no static defense, and actually Classic is just going to warp in to defend back at home, and he might use losing some probes like this as an opportunity to warp into even more units here on the front line as he is winding up for a huge attack between Creator's 3rd and 4th base. Blink forward there by Classic. Looks like the 4th base is going to be the target. maybe not. Still biding his time. And look at this arc from Creator. You were talking about surface area with Zealots earlier. Yeah, Creator absolutely setting up for that one. He's going to need it against all these Archons, too.
Okay, so he's trying to find the right angle here. I gotta say, Creator's positioning is like pretty good. Like, I almost can't imagine Classic breaking this, but let's see. Okay, and Creator's going to dive out and go to the fight, so he's going to give up his position and try to instead engulf this army out here, and I think that was a mistake. I don't know why he did that. I felt like, and I was saying a second ago, I don't think Classic can get in there, and then Creator just ran out the front door and attacked him like that.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit impatient was Creator. He does have a lot of minerals left in the bank, so he might be able to warp in enough to defend this. More reinforcements now coming in from the third base, but the fourth base, it's already lost a lot of the static defense. That pylon also going to go down, so the warp-in is canceled. Meanwhile, Classic reinforcing with a warp prism just to the north, and Creator, he's going to have to forfeit this base. Classic looking so strong right now. 5 Archons still remaining when all is said and done. +3 ground weapons underway here for Classic as well. Not even started for Creator. Everything coming up Classic right now.
Yeah, I mean, Creator's really hurting right now, and I don't know that even in this fight, I don't think he can actually win this, right? He's got a lot of Archons, but there's still, yeah, GG, there's still Zealots therefore for Classic to push through. Really weird moment there at the end. I was saying the position that Creator was in looked so strong, like he had a perfect spread of everything on the 2 bases. I thought Classic was just going to have to kind of like, I don't know, ping pong from side to side and eventually realize, okay, I can't get in there. Like, sometimes if you see a base that you can't push in an attack, just let it be there. The game's going to go on. Time can still be on your side. So anyways, I thought, okay, well, there's no way that Creator it can be hit. And then he just ran out.
Yeah.
He just, like, charged out in this, like, in this big line, and then we saw the blink on top of it, and everything got surrounded, and it's like, well, that's...
Yeah, maybe...
so much of late-game PvP is about positioning because the Zealots have a mind of their own with charge.
Yeah, especially with army compositions like that one, where it is just so many Zealots. Creator might have even been still on 3 gases there at the very end. If he wasn't, he had just added in the additional gases. So, like, majority of the army value right there, it's going to be in the Zealots, and the arc that he had split between the third base and the fourth base, we were both looking at it. It looked beautiful.
Yeah,
and then
it looked really good.
I'm not exactly sure what the decision was to go and push out from that position and try and get on top of the army of Classic, but it seems like that's what Classic was waiting for, man. He's just biding his time, waiting out there like, okay, eventually something's going to happen. It certainly did. That fight went his way, and Classic's going to go into the winner's match.
Guys, do us a favor. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I guess there's not a whole lot to do other than to subscribe and like the video. But if you're watching on, let's say, Twitch, do us a favor and subscribe to our YouTube. We're still trying to grow it. I'm sure if you're watching this right now live, you probably watch a decent amount of StarCraft content. We're still trying to get into the algorithm for StarCraft II. There's a lot of great StarCraft II creators on YouTube, a lot of great StarCraft content on YouTube. And the reality is most people now consume StarCraft in VOD form because everybody's busy. You know, they've got jobs or they've got kids or they're busy in school, and so they can kind of watch it on their own time. And we've made this show to be seasonal and spoiler-free so that you do have a lot of StarCraft II content over several days and weeks that you can consume and enjoy. And we want to get that out to as many people as possible. So we've got spoiler-free VODs and thumbnails on YouTube. Please like those videos and subscribe.
Yeah, make sure you click
the bell
as well.
Let me know in the comments. What do you think about the game in the comments? We're going to read the comments.
You're a YouTuber now,
I'm a YouTuber now.
It's beautiful.
Whoa, what did I say in the comments? So do that for us, please. We're going to go take a short break. When we come back, it's going to be a TVP here for day 2 of the RSL.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Season 3 of the RSL. We are continuing on with Group B. I'm State, and join with me, we have a very special guest on the cast today. It is Sort of. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Very happy to be here. Always happy to come out and cast some StarCraft and hang out with you guys.
Yeah, we have a lot of Protoss players and a Terran also playing today, so we had to get a Zerg specialist to come in and break it down for us. As we're going to be going into Trigger versus Cure in just a minute. Another PvT coming at you. We had, I think, a couple of those pretty recently with Bunny playing versus Zaun and Max Specs there in Group A. And PvT in the current patch It's been kind of interesting, honestly. I've seen a lot of Protoss players have these different approaches. We have some people who are relying on Storm considerably less than they did in the previous patch because it's not quite as bursty as it is. Yeah. And we have some players, like MaxPex was demonstrating, who isn't going to shy away from the Templar. Even though that Storm might not be quite as good as it is in PvT and quite as explosive as it used to be, he still loves to see it. And we're going to find out very soon what Trigger's going to be doing here versus Cure.
Yeah, very exciting. We've seen the history between these two has been very Cure-sided in the past, but actually in recent times it's been very even, whereas Trigger has been trading games pretty evenly with Cure back and forth. This should be a really close series.
Yeah, Trigger has actually been looking so good recently. I know he just won a tournament in the Americas very recently. He's looking in tip-top form, whereas Cure also, he's been one of these TVP legends for years and years and years, but the current patch, or I guess I should say the previous patch, really didn't fit his play style that well, and so it's kind of an interesting little difference that we have between these two. Trigger, who's on the up and up, and Cure, who's been a little bit struggling in TVP. Let's see how it goes. Is spawning in the top left, our red Protoss player, excuse me, it is Trigger. And down in the bottom right, our blue Terran, it is Cure.
Yeah, all right.
We're loading in now on Maganatha. We've got a ton of new maps coming in here in this this season of StarCraft II. I'm wondering, how have you been enjoying it? Because I've been watching your stream quite a bit. You've been playing a bunch recently, right?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot. The new maps are very exciting for sure. Very refreshing to see like an entire new map pool come in, where we don't keep any of the old maps.
I think this is
very cool.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the first time in like StarCraft history that we have an entirely new map pool come in? Because I feel like basically every single season we've had quite a bit of carryover from the previous season, right? It was a big surprise to me. I wasn't expecting to have so much upheaval coming in for the new season of StarCraft.
Yeah, if not in the first time, it's the first time in a very long time that we actually got like a completely new map pool. So, and the maps are also very different from the previous map pool, right? It doesn't feel like there's any like copies or whatever like you want to say. Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun. I hope we get to see some more of the new maps. We already had a taste of it earlier on today in the first match coming up with Classic versus Creator, but it's been so cool seeing the map maker just continue to get better and even incorporate some new tools like the worker-only paths. I know it's on, I think, Celestial Enclave.
Yes.
Is one of the maps that has a worker-only path, and it's really exciting stuff.
Yeah.
All right, build order now coming in. Command center here on the low ground for Cure. Trigger also going for a very fast expansion, so some pretty standard stuff so far here in the early game. Going to be a fast factory coming in for Cure. Just a one gas build here for Terran.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of different builds from Cure. He sometimes go for the mine drops. We've seen that a few times. But he also tends to go for like the faster third command centers a few times. We'll see what he ends up going for here.
Yeah, TVP is in kind of an interesting place right now. I know we were talking about this a little bit before the cast, but it feels like a lot of times the Terran player has like a decision to make going into the game. Are they going to try and end things very early, say with like a 2-base or 3-base siege tank push, and just invest a lot in crippling the Protoss player early on? Or are they going to do something a little bit more akin to what Bunny did yesterday in Group A, which did not go particularly well for him, but it has been going well for other players around the world, where they really just kind of turtle up and play for the supreme late game, eventually sacrifice some SCVs, go up to like 160 plus army supply.
Yeah, it feels like they have to be very decisive in their decision making, unless the Protoss decide to throw a curveball or something like that. But in most cases, it feels like the ball is in the Terran's court to make the decision of how they want to play the game. But Cure, I think, for the most part, from what I've seen, has been leaning more towards the macro end of things. But obviously, it's a new patch. Maybe he'll have a new approach. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's always been very interesting for me in terms of watching Cure play is I know that his macro isn't like leaps and bounds above everybody else, but for whatever reason, when I watch Cure games, it just feels like he has so much more stuff in the mid game. I'm not sure what it is. Bjorn's another guy who does this. Maybe it's just the two of them make so many more Marauders than everybody else.
I know what you mean. I have
in TVP, but you look at the armies and they just feel so big.
Yeah, it's the same thing playing with him in TVC, where he has like not the best multitasking or micro, but he makes up for it with insane macro, which is like so many more units than most Terrans will have.
That was one of the big topics back in like the green room at EWC, when you get to see obviously the first player view of the players as well. this year, and we would watch Cure, and like you say you watch like Rainer or somebody play, and he's like lightning fast. Even when he's playing League of Legends, he's like 500 APM. It makes no sense. He's like the fastest person in the world. And then you watch Cure, and it's like, oh, this is like kind of soothing. I like the tempo of this. Like this is like something that I could do.
Yeah, very methodical, very patient.
Yeah, he's very calculated in what he decides to spend his attention on. All right, drop now coming into the main base of Trigger. Looks like a Cyclone and 4 Marines here in this medevac. Dropping off early.
I think just about to finish.
Yeah, Trigger really well positioned to try and intercept this. Even focus firing down the Marines there, making sure that the medevac healing is going to be too substantial. With Blink done, that medevac barely escaping.
Yeah, that was very, very close.
This one Stalker kind of getting stuck on the ledge here for a moment.
All right, tank behind us.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this might be some kind of push coming in here. We do have the third Nexus going down here on Trigger's side, all the way to the 9 o'clock. And in my personal experience in PvT on Maganatha, defending this third base versus siege tank pushes is actually very difficult, just because you don't have a lot of space before you're already going down into that ramp there at the third base. And so for Terrans to try and just encroach on that and slowly push into that expansion, it's even hard to really get a surround as the Protoss because of the architecture of the map, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't really matter what matchup it is or what situation it is. When there's a ramp positioned right in front of your base, it always makes taking fights very awkward because you have to be very decisive.
Yeah, and two more racks going down here for Cure. 5 barracks with the factory and the starport. No add-on on the starport. It's also a very big tell. This is definitely going to be a siege tank push, and the SCVs are getting pulled. Oh boy, Ricky.
Yeah, it's very important that Trigger is out here like he is and poking at this with the Stalkers to buy time and pick off a few units here and there.
Yeah,
every single second he can buy.
You got to kite as much as you possibly can. Stimpack getting used right now here by Kira. No combat shields with this push, notably. And Trigger, it's not too late to cancel this Nexus if he wants to. We do have a lot more shield batteries warping in, and Trigger's actually going to allow it to complete. First shield battery does get canceled. No bunkers being thrown down by Kira just yet. Just using the SCVs as a meat shield. And Trigger, it seems like he might just be sacrificing it. There's so much damage in this Terran army that you really can't hold on to that Nexus.
Yeah, not just Stalkers. You probably need something like, charge to finish, you need a couple Immortals, and there's just not enough time for that. Unfortunately, like, the Nexus is barely finished right before they saw the SCVs. If you saw the SCVs just a few seconds earlier, maybe you would have made a decision to cancel the Nexus. So that's a bit unfortunate for sure.
I love a decision to section off exactly 4 Stalkers to try and flank. Catch the reinforcement there, they can one-shot the Marines, but the real problem is here on the front door. All of these Marines now coming in. The siege tank's also getting in position. More probes are going to be pulled here by Trigger, and Kira, we're talking about whether he's going to go macro or whether he's going to go aggro here in this GVP, and it looks like game 1 here on Maganatha definitely be going for that kind of aggressive play. And Trigger, I mean, he put up a very good fight, even with the last charge in, able to take down one of these siege tanks, but it feels like his days are numbered. GG is called, and Liquid Cure going to be taking game number 1 there versus Trigger.
Yeah, very decisive, very clean aggression. Nothing really went wrong for him at all. Again, very unfortunate for Trigger that he didn't see the SCVs coming. Because if he sees them coming, he can make a more decisive decision of whether to hold the third or not. It felt like he was kind of doing everything, right? Like, he wanted to hold the third, but he couldn't really do it, and cancel the batteries, and it just goes out of control very, very quickly.
Yeah, I feel like on a different map, and this just kind of speaks to the build order selection there of Cure. On a different map, he might actually be able to hold that if the architecture of the third base is a little bit different, but on Maganatha, it is such a tight position. Everything just feels choked up. And even Saw, when he came in with those Stalkers and tried to go around, it is really a large distance to cover, and it's not a very good angle to come in versus siege tanks, because with their long range, they basically see everything. So yeah, brutal start there in game number 1, but Trigger, he has been in very good form lately. I'm expecting him to bounce back here in map number 2.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly where he is right now, but he also probably just came off of the travel from the US. Yeah. So might be feeling some jet lag if he's back in Korea. I'm not sure exactly where he is, but yeah, could come into play.
Game number 2 now loading up. We're actually going to be going to Evil Heart. I forgot the map order for a second there. This is one of my favorite maps that we have here in the RSL. One of the maps that the Patreons voted in for us. Thank you very much, Patreon supporters, because this is one of the most aggressive maps that we have in the pool. Have you seen this one before? Sort of.
I have not seen it before. It looks very, very small.
Yeah, let's give sort of the tour here of Evil Heart.
Yeah.
Very few bases. It almost feels like a Wings of Liberty map, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like 6 bases per player, which is very low these days.
Yeah, you might not be surprised, but a lot of Zergs vetoed this map.
I would not be too surprised.
I think Solar actually might have been one of the few Zerg players to not veto it and then win with Mass Roach Ravager and CVP. It's the one use case where it's actually very good here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, anyway, Trigger spawning in the top right is a red Protoss. Akir, the blue Terran down in the bottom left. As Mapu gives us the full tour here of Evo Heart. And it's a very quick tour because the map isn't very big. It's a couple of screens. It takes you from the top right corner all the way to the top left corner.
Yeah.
And I wonder now, we had in game number 1 on Maganatha, Kier went for that siege tank push very early on and was able to just get devastating damage. He kneecapped Trigger, he took down that expansion straight away and just that catapulted him to a victory right out of the gates.
Yep.
But here on game number 2, I was wondering if he's going to go into something more macro-focused or if he's going to stay on the aggro. And then I saw the map as Evil Heart, and I feel like you basically just have to go aggro here as Terran, right? There's not going to be a better map of the pool to do it, in my opinion. And we already have Kure going for the 2-gas opening, so it's going to be something very technical.
Yeah, could be the mine drop, as he's shown a lot of times before with the 2-gas. But yeah, like one thing about it comes into consideration when they're going for turtle or aggression is also, like you mentioned, the expansion layout. So the third base being very vulnerable on Maganatha probably went into that decision. And the same thing here, even though the map is short, because of the base layout, he might opt to do something a little different, right?
Yeah, the base layout I feel like makes it a little bit safer here for Trigger, but everything else goes Cure's way. Yeah. Should Cure decide to do another kind of siege tank push or something like that, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what the build order will be here from Cure. We know it's going to be technical with the 2-gas, but we don't know exactly what flavor of a technical build it will be.
Yes.
All right, Reaper now coming here into the natural expansion. Oh, Probe actually coming back here for Trigger. That's a very cute move, especially with a reactor being done there on the barracks. It means that there's nothing here to actually defend this SEV. It's going to go down to 10 HP. Second one's going to come in, and that command center is only about 20% done. So the Reaper is actually going to come all the way back. Yeah, it's just a Congo line of SCVs trying to get this command center online here.
Recon the probe.
Oh, that's so clutch! Because they didn't even see the Reaper. Oh man, that is a great timing.
Yeah.
If I tried doing that, my probe would just be dead. Yeah. It would not have survived. I would have popped the recall, and then a moment later the Reaper would show up and just completely kill it.
Yeah, that was a nice play for sure.
All right, Twilight Council now coming in here for Trigger. And man, he's showing a lot of respect to the potential for aggression. We already have 2 shield batteries underway here in BBT. This is...
Yeah, really respecting the 2-gas opening here. You see Cyclone and Medevac coming out from Cure. We'll see what the second factory unit will be after the first Cyclone here.
Yeah, Medevac also coming in. So it might be a similar drop to what we saw from Cure in game number 1. I know that was a 1-gas build to start things out, but you could easily go for another siege tank push here with a 2-gas opening and have kind of the same set of units like this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have to wait and see what he does with these units. It's also the Cyclone is also nice just to have for safety in general, like in case there's something like an Oracle or something coming across the map. But obviously the way he's positioned, you can see that this is not... He's not looking to catch anything, he's just looking to set up for the potential aggression. He doesn't want him to see him coming across the map, so he's meeting him out on the map, so the stalkers can't start kiting early on.
Oh man, we're already coming with the siege tank and 4 Marines in this medevac as well, so... Trigger, he is poking and prodding a little bit outside of that natural expansion, but he has very little map presence, and those shield batteries might actually come back to bite him because that's money not spent on gateways, not spent on units here to meet this army in the center. And there might not be any SCVs, but this push is hitting so hard and so fast at the natural expansion of Trigger.
Yeah, the sweep here is probably good. Like, he needs to be very decisive when dealing with this to see if it's enough to actually clean this up fairly efficiently.
Wow, the probe pool actually getting a lot done. Medevac also gets focused down. We did lose 12 probes there as Trigger, so Cure is basically equalized the worker count, and there's a lot of production also on this pylon. Oh, that's painful. Oh, the decisive move to pull the probes. I felt like it got a lot done, but there just isn't quite enough there. The follow-up and the lack of production, it's really going to stunt the defense now.
Yeah, for sure. I think also like the lack of sentry in these situations is also very big, right? Like the Guardian shield will be massive in a situation like this. Obviously Blink not being finished either. It's very rough to hold this.
I mean, the push just hits so fast, and so much of the power also comes from these siege tanks. It only takes a couple of shots to take down those stalkers, so Trigger, I was wondering if he might just blink forward and try and get on top of the siege tanks and make some magic happen. But for now, it seems like he's just kiting back and forth, but that Nexus is getting very low on HP now. Finally, he is going to blink forward on top of those siege tanks. He gets within the minimum range, so they can't do too much damage, but it's still going to be a little bit too much, and in, I think, the fastest series that we've had so far in the Season 3 of RSL.
Yeah, that was very, very quick.
Yeah, Kira is going to dispatch Trigger with a 2-0 win at 2 really aggressive builds.
Yes. Yeah, Kira is a player who's obviously, with his history, like being a super consistent player, and he just shows why, right? Like, he's so decisive, so calm, so collected, executes everything in a timely fashion, and just takes the win.
Yeah, it's cool that he did this too, because you said that you've been watching some Kira games coming to this one. He's been playing a very macro-focused TVP. I wonder if Trigger also did his research and is like, oh, well, Kira's playing these more macro games. I wonder if this is going to go well for me in terms of the early game. And then Kira brings out 2 of the most devilish aggressive builds that you could possibly get. One that's just tailored for Maganatha. It builds up a little bit slower, has the SCV pull added in to add some sustain there at the third base. Hit a critical moment of vulnerability in the Protoss. And then in game number 2, he pushes out so quickly with the siege tanks, with a medevac. Yeah, that was just a beautiful series.
Yeah, it could also be just Kira looking at like the bigger picture of the group, of course, as we can see in front of us. There's 3 Protoss players in this group, so he wants to obviously have a wider variety of builds going into this.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Kira, he's always been kind of a TVP mastermind throughout his career. He has been a little bit of a slump in TVP, but it's a new patch, and hey, if you're going to get in good shape in TVP, playing a group against Classic, Creator, and Trigger and practicing for that group, it's a great time to do it. So Classic and Kira, they're going to be heading into the winners match. Creator and Trigger, they are falling into the losers match here in Group B as the action continues on here at the RSL. Guys, if you want to support us, we invite you to join our growing community on patreon.com/Revive SC2. There are a lot of tiers available for you, not just the tiers you see on screen, and there are all sorts of perks like replay packs, voting privileges on the maps, voting privileges on the players that get invited to each season, and I think even the higher tiers might actually have tickets for the offline finals that will be happening live in Seoul with live casters, live audience, live players. So make sure you check it out. You can even just drop by and follow and receive news on the RSL. So it's a great way to support us. We could not do this without your support. And folks, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to continue on here in Group B of the RSL.
At least the moment where this beat. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the RSL. We've been having some very, very short matches here today.
Yeah, very explosive, very fast.
Yeah, it's very different from yesterday. We had some pretty dramatic macro games the other day. So far, we're almost halfway through now today. We're going to be going to a TVP here, and this could be one of the best matches in the entire tournament. This is going to be Kira versus Classic. Yeah,
absolute top-notch tier players here. Classic obviously coming on of World EWC. Has shown amazing performance since then and leading up to the tournament as well. And Kira is always just like such a consistent player, right? Like every single tournament goes into, you would almost expect him to get at least top 8.
Yeah, I mean, he's just so strong, and this is in an era right now, and this appears to be, the state of the game, at least for 2025, is Protoss has been doing very, very well overall, especially in the tournaments based out of Korea like GSL and RSL. I don't normally root for Kira, but I feel like I have to root against Classic here. I got to root against the Protosses. We've already got 2 Protosses qualifying for the offline finals in December. By the way, tickets are on sale on tastelessthreads.com for that if you want to come down and watch that live. But let's see what Kira can do. I've always admired Kira. He does play kind of in his own way. Sometimes you look at other players and they're kind of waiting to see what the leaders in their own race are doing, and they go, okay, I'm going to try to emulate that, or I'm going to try to enhance that in some way. But Kira's really had his own approach. Prior to the patch, we had a lot of games where it seemed like if the game went on long enough, the Protoss just couldn't be killed, so the Terran had to kind of figure out how to end the game. And there are matchups in StarCraft historically that do operate like that, where one race basically just macros and defends, the other one tries to end him. So we'll see if that's going to be the case this time around. We've got Kira here in the top left and Classic in the bottom right.
Yes. Yeah, like Kira obviously been like a super standard player for the most part, but it's like we talked about before in this matchup, it has started to trend a little bit in more extreme directions, right? Where it will either be something super aggressive or something super slow and like slowly taking the map and just eventually trying to win in the late game as Terran in the current patch.
Yeah, and we'll see if by the way, I think Classic was the quintessential kind of turtling macro Protoss player from the previous seasons of RSL. I really liked the build where he would go for a fast Templar Archives on 2 bases, just kind of rush into Storm and then pair that with Colossus later on. But the game has changed quite a bit. I think the talk of the town when the new patch was announced was just that Storm had changed. It lasts much longer. And people, it's funny because I feel like a lot of people had a lot of different takes on what that would make of the game. And I try to, when I see a change that dramatic, I sort of wait and just see what do the games actually look like, because the players are going to know better than me. But the takeaway I've had so far is that when you're Storm, you can just sort of move out of it now in a way that you couldn't before.
Yeah, it also buys a lot more time, right? Because you put down the Storm, and then you have to make a very big decision as the attacker, right? Do I actually try to run through this, or do I try to just back off and wait for the Storm to run out and then go again, right? It also covers a slightly bigger area, I would say.
Yeah, Storm always felt, it's always been a zoning tool on some level, but now it feels even more so, right?
Yeah.
Like you can just sort of occupy a certain area on the map, and it's kind of a no-go unless you're so strong you can somehow power through it. In this game, we have the Nexus on the low ground with tech. Basically, both sides have front-loaded tech, and then they're going to expand pretty quietly behind that. So we don't know what kind of game we're going to have so far, but we'll see if it's going to be, the Terran trying to end the Protoss. We did have a very poppy TVP earlier in the previous matchup that you casted with State.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. Like again, the ball is kind of in Core's court, and we'll have to see where he decides to go. So far, only one gas, which is usually a big indicator of what he wants to do. But as we saw in the previous series, he did do an aggressive one gas opener in one of the games. So we'll have to wait and see here.
So we've got the Reaper coming out here trying to do a little bit of scouting. For the time being, and with the Stalker coming up, we don't really know what kind of tech it's going to be. So it will be the Twilight Council, and this is probably the most mainline opening right now. It still doesn't necessarily tell us what kind of game we're going to have. I think it's been a little bit more common to go for 2 gates here and then try to take a third, and you kind of have the minimum number of Stalkers to defend everything.
Yeah.
But we also, and this has been around for a long time, and it seems to kind of come into fashion and go away and come back in, is the 4-gate pressure play with a Robo. It doesn't seem like this would be a bad map for it. It also doesn't seem like the Terran's in a bad spawn for it. I feel like that build is always stronger when the Terran's on the left side of the map because the add-ons stick out on the right side.
Exactly,
and the Stalkers can punish that way.
Yeah, for a while it was pretty much always alright. It was 4-gate blink almost every single game. But these days it seems like a bit more variety and also a bit more caution from the Protoss, where they want to just kind of get into the mid-game, start getting the 3rd Nexus, the 4th Nexus, start to power up. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how many gateways gets added here.
It does feel like the longer you have a style like that in the ecosystem, the weaker it can become because people just get so good at defending it. I remember when it was there were so many 4-gate games and it just seemed like the Terran couldn't stop it no matter what. But now it seems like the Terrans know to kind of shield themselves off with a tank behind that and a bunker, and then kind of daisy chain that together with another tank on the ramp and on the low ground. But anyways, it's not going to be this kind of game this time around. This is going to be more of the macro play here with the Nexus, the 3rd Nexus started. Now, on the Terran side of the map, the 3rd Command Center is about to finish. We'll see how quickly he will land that. He'll probably turn that into an orbital, get some mules, maybe some extra SCVs, and expand when he's comfortable. But right now, this entire game is about growth. It's about development. It's not clear that anybody's going to be attacking into each other, other than maybe some very light harass for the time being. Yeah,
we see a Robo coming in from Classic, so we can expect a War Prison to get added, maybe some light harassment combined with that. But I think for the most part, we're going to see Cure taking it very slow and methodical, just taking 1 base at a time, and Classic will try to exploit that in any way he can by pulling out a position, trying to get pickoffs every now and then. And yeah, that's going to be most of the game for the mid-game here, I think.
So we've got a couple more gateways coming down, and we're seeing a lot of the upgrades fill in here. We're getting the stim. The eBay is going to get done. Obviously, +1's going to start there. And for Protoss, it's the same thing. We're going to get the charge. We're going to get some more gateways here. And I wouldn't be shocked if Protoss takes the 4th base in a little bit. Yeah. And I wouldn't be shocked if a little bit later we have a 5th base for the Protoss and even a 4th base for the Terran. It feels like once both sides start to play greedy, it's hard to kind of end it until you're almost maxed out. Yeah, you get out of control so quickly that the timings become so small that it's very, very hard to hit those timings, and you have to kind of decisively look for those timings to begin with. So it's very hard. It almost feels like it doesn't. Okay, he's going to just dive in there. All that to kill 1 Marine and 1 SCV, but why not? You're just going to lose shields. But yeah, it does feel like it almost doesn't make sense to try to attack or do something too much. Yeah, just try to control the map a little bit as much as you can, and just try to eke out small advantages where we can, like this. A single Hellion coming in here costing Smiley time, maybe a single probe. And so, we're going to go into a pretty deep macro game here off of this. Now, I do feel like there still might be a defender's advantage for Protoss. In this matchup, we'll see, and we'll even see if Storm plays a role here. We have the Templar Archives here, but that also could be for Archons. But yeah, sorry. Even if you look at somebody like MaxPax, for example, he's been going a lot into Storm, but then very quickly transitioning out of it back into Colossus.
more like of an older style of PvP, where it's all of tech switches back and forth, force Vikings, force Ghost. But in this case, that the Terran just kind of wants to sit there and just absorb, and then once they actually get close to their 200 supply, then they're like, okay, now I want to fight, now I want to try to get the good trades I need to actually win the game, because the Protoss is going to be ahead in economy for a lot of this.
It feels to me like, so like, let's talk about this going into like a really dramatic macro game. The map is massive.
Yeah.
There's a ton of bases. It seems just the way that Terran functions, it's pretty hard to have half the map unless you're Maru. And even then, that's not what usually happens in this matchup. Like if you think of split map, usually they get TVZ, right? And it's sort of, it becomes like a weird inverse game where it's like, oh, we're going to make the Zerg run out of money. And Terran's going to be the last one in the game to have this. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is like, I think if this game goes super long, I think Classic's going to be very good at navigating it. But we're seeing Cure move out here now. He's got a lot of Marauders. I think probably about an even number of Marines and Marauders, actually. And he's going to try to hit this up-and-coming 4th base.
Storm just finished, so Classic should be in a good position to kick this out.
Is that okay? So he's actually sniped one of the medevacs. It's actually one of the weirdest attacks I've ever seen Classic do. He like got
that was very ambitious.
Yeah. Well, I felt like he changed his mind halfway through.
Yeah.
That was maybe one of the worst attacks I've seen in a while. So he dove in, killed a medevac, then realized there's way more stuff there. Started to try to kill the other medevac, then lost everything, and the 4th base was denied. So that's a huge victory for Cure.
Yeah, I felt like he was just like charging straight at him with complete confidence, but he just clearly did not have the numbers, but made the call, and now he has to try to figure a way out of this position he's in.
Yeah, good call on the cancel there from Classic.
Yeah.
And so basically Classic just tries to set up again. Now an even larger force is out here, this time with even more medevacs. The area is kind of boxy. It will be not easy to get in, but I think he could basically bait out the storms. And I think that might be why Classic's going to try to just move in here and hit now.
Yeah, trying to get some good storms. Pretty good storms going down. Getting a lot of Marauders. That's a good start for Classic.
Yeah, he's doing a good job so far. I feel like Classic probably can handle the rest of this. These Marines and Marauders are so squishy at this point in time. Their HP is so low. And so Classic kind of bounces off of that attack. Cure bounces off of that attack. Classic's going to get his base up.
In the meantime, preparing the Colossus transition. Second robotics facility almost completed. Double upgrades coming in, so Classic has some power spikes coming in here that you can play with in the next couple of minutes here.
So yeah, with that tech, I mean, it makes it a lot easier to deal with the clumpiness of the Marines and the Marauders. Cure's still on 3 bases, so I mean, there's a lot more map to take here on both sides if we eventually get there. But it almost feels like now Classic's going to try to just build up, keep trying to finish tick every box on the tech tree, and maybe try to go for an attack or a push here. If that happens, Terran could counterattack. You know, a lot of times when you're on a lot of bases, sometimes the good play, especially when you're dealing with an army, is difficult to confront as a Protoss with a lot of splash damage. Sometimes it's best to almost ignore the army and try to just hit weak points where they aren't.
Yeah, try to just buy time until you're actually ready to fight the army, right? But Cure in this case is already preparing for the Colossus switch, already has a decent amount of Vikings and more coming in. So his army composition is looking very good, very well-rounded. And they're just both going to try to slow the game down a little bit again. Some harassment coming in here from Classic, but in general they're both just trying to expand, secure their 4th, secure their 5th. Classic just wants to wait until he has thermal lands and a decent number of Colossus, right, before he actually really wants to take any big engagements.
Yeah, so he comes through there. I mean, you'll take anything to try to keep Terran back at home, but not too impactful that moment. Classic's finally taking that 5th base, and we do see Cure taking the 4th. We were kind of talking about that earlier. That's probably the direction the game's going to go in. And, with the amount of money that Classic has, he's going to throw down a ton of gateways. And when you start to max out in this matchup, sometimes it's about the 2 armies colliding, and then the fact that you can refill all that supply with warpins, right? As long as you're not losing the Colossi, because obviously they build just like any other Terran unit, out of a building. And sometimes that's how you snowball or strong arm a fight and drive the game to its conclusion where the Protoss wins.
Yeah, the big side effect that happened because of the early poor fight by Classic is that Cure got to actually get all the time he needs to get to this stage of the game, right? We talked before about how he wants to get to a maxed out situation with Ghost, with Vikings and so on. And now he's kind of arrived at this stage. The fight earlier gave it so much momentum to Cure, so he was able to just get here for free, right? more or less. Nice Storm Dog coming in here, getting 80
Cool.
CVs.
I was kind of waiting. I'm like, she's going to dig this down in a second. So Nice Storm's 10 SCVs is pretty good for a Storm drop.
Absolutely.
And so he's going to have to eventually pull that away. We got some scans on the map. Oh my God. He's just not moving these boys.
He's preparing for the fight.
Yeah. And maybe that's what he really should be doing too. We can see the speed zone is going to be kind of annoying to try to fight the Terran over. Some Vikings are starting to hit these Colossi. It looks like the damaged one is actually onto the side. So, as long as it doesn't matter if it's damaged. If it's still in the fight, it's still going to be able to do more splash. Yeah. And Classic's finally moving out.
The EMP was very good, but he only didn't get the Templars, right? So the still like 7 full energy high Templars almost. So that's really hard for Cure to deal with here. He needs to somehow get an EMP then, so he can actually take the fight, right? While there's Storm available, he can never really commit to a fight. He can just poke and try to snipe a Colossus, try to snipe a single unit, throw an EMP. But as long as there's energy on the Templars here, it's very hard for Cure to actually straight up engage into this army, as you can see.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of brutal watching the Terran get dragged into this, and I'm worried that Classic... I mean, this push is so well done by him. I feel like there's nothing that Cure can do.
So many storms.
This is so brutal.
Yeah, there's so many storms.
Oh my God. And of course, we talked about that supply refill. He's going to have the Zealots here. I think that may be game. That was so well executed by
definitely.
Classic.
And also hit right with 3-3, right? Cure was still on 2-2, maybe even 1-1 for the start of that fight, and then 3-3 kicking for Classic. Just hit the timing perfectly from a dicey position early on.
It was kind of crazy. We were talking about, a lot of times Protoss can kind of just defend and the Terran has to figure out how to end the game. Well, that game went on long enough. I mean, they were both really powering up so heavily.
Yeah.
Eventually, Classic just decided I'm gonna identify where his army is and I'm gonna kind of plow him back into his base. And from there, you really get to appreciate the change in the Psy Storm, right? And it doesn't kill units that fast, but it's just like it's a spell that's present that's taking up space, and the Terran sort of has to flee behind that. And eventually, the two armies were kind of the whole army was kind of pushed in 2 different directions.
Yeah.
The Protoss was able to deal so much damage. Yeah, I mean there was nothing.
Yeah, once the Protoss army is in a position to where you're forced to fight, like when it's hitting your third base, you're kind of forced to take that fight, right? And then you just puts the storms, and then you're okay. Now you either give up this base or you're fighting into the storms. And in that case, that was Cure's third base. He didn't really have a choice of just giving the base up. He kind of just had to take the fight. And then, we saw how that ended up working out.
Impressive from Classic.
Yeah,
I think,
very nice.
I think in Game 2 from Cure, we'll probably see him be a little bit more aggressive.
Maybe more aggressive, or maybe just try to capitalize a bit, because he did get a big advantage in the mid-game that game, right? After the good fight. But then he kind of just, like we talked about, he took that momentum and just used it to progress further into the game.
Yeah.
Whereas he could have maybe opted to try to put a little bit more pressure on Classic instead of just giving him the freedom to power up as well.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see what he does this time around here. Right now it's Classic up with a 1-0 lead. Cure is here in the top right. In the red, we have Classic down here in the bottom left. And it was a game where, Cure went for the 3 CCs right away. I mean, basically the most macro-oriented build in the matchup.
Yep.
And Classic, he kind of played single player himself.
Yep.
He just got the tech and powered up. And I'm not saying that Cure won't go for 3 command center this time around, but I don't know. I look at this and I think maybe SCV pulls can be a little bit stronger on 2 bases because of the changes. What do you think?
Yeah, it definitely feels like the energy overcharge nerf definitely feels like it matters a little bit in these situations, right? But there's the 2 versus the 2 base pushes. But we've also seen, like in the trigger games, where he kind of didn't exactly figure out what was going on, and then that kind of led to him just taking a bad fight and then the game is over, right? I think the key to holding this is just to be a little bit more on top of things, realize what is coming your way, and then being able to react accordingly, right? But we'll have to wait and see. One of my favorite things about Classic as a player is just his development. If you look at pre-military Classic, he was one of the most versatile Protoss players, I would say, back then, where he would consider to do cannon rushes, 2 base all-ins, blink DT plays, and he would also play the big macro games. Whereas since he came back from the military, he's been much more leaned into the heavy macro-focused play, where he just wants to sit there and just get to the later stages for most of the games. It's
a really good point, actually. When you said it, I thought, oh yeah, that's actually very true. Yeah, with the Classic, a lot of times you didn't know what he was going to do, and that was what was kind of exciting about it. But yeah, he does seem to have leaned into this sort of just like macro Protoss player. It reminds me a little bit of Stats in some ways, although maybe even better. But, maybe that was a really good decision. There are players, like I always think of, maybe the player I see that has like the most builds is maybe Special. Like when I watch him, I'm like, this guy just does a lot. I will never, ever try to just predict what he does because he seems to be capable of doing anything and everything. But then there's other players that do seem to be, like, Solar yesterday, right? Like by the end of the day, we were calling exactly what he was going to do, and he just is doing it so well, so it kind of doesn't matter if you know it's coming.
Yeah.
And that seems to be classic in this kind of slow-moving, super strong, passive, teching, macroing Protoss.
Yeah. Yeah, so two macro players really clashing here. Right? It's very interesting to see, and they're both so high level, so it's very cool to see them come at each other.
Yeah, and so, let's see what kind of game this is going to be this time around. I think Classic wouldn't be incentivized to change anything, right? I'm really looking at this more so from Cure's perspective. Now, he's getting a Cyclone and he's getting a Starport, so we're not going to have that third CC right away. And then let's watch and see, does he start to throw down a lot more barracks over here? Unless he does some mech stuff, that would be cool as well. I would definitely welcome that as well. But right now, he's going to try to go for some kind of engage early on.
Yeah, this kind of looks like the build he did in the second game versus Trigger, where he went for a tank right after the Cyclone and then did the one tank push, right, that hit a lot earlier than the previous game. So let's see if he does something similar here. The big tell will be what the second unit is here from the factory, and it's a tank again. So we could expect him to just move across the map here, try to make sure that Classic can't see this coming too early, right? You just have the units out on the map, deny any potential hallucination scouts or something like that, and also just set up for the push a little bit later. Yeah,
the Adept that came in almost actually got in there. And so, he's going to go for one of these little sophisticated pushes that come out and basically try to shut the Protoss down and cripple them early on. Now, remember, the medevac just now got here. I was going to say, when you do an attack like this, you got to be careful. The Guardian Shield goes up, and I feel like it's just not quite enough. The Sentry can't really stutter step micro back in a situation like this. The Cyclone's still dealing damage. And I mean, this is working. This is a lot. I mean, look, Blink's going to finish, and who cares? There's hardly any Stalkers to even blink with this.
Yeah, it was a great decision by Cure to pull the trigger right away as soon as he hit with this, right? In the previous game versus Trigger, he actually waited a lot longer for the tank to join before he actually went for the fight, right? So great decision. After seeing the third, he knows that Classic is a little bit more greedy. He tries to punish it, and it works out really well. We got the Vikings coming out in here as well, so any potential war prisms could be dealt with, and also on the ground they're also really strong.
Yeah, and just having the Viking on the ground, it's just something on the ground. Remember that, Stalker shots, the little lasers have to actually connect to the target, which means you can do a lot more micro tricks by picking stuff up. In this case, it's going to be a blink into the tank that kills this off, and as cool as what we saw Cure doing, what he was doing, excuse me, I can't talk. Classic just kind of kills it. He just clobbers it with the Stalkers, and now this rush is over.
Yeah, the probe pull was very decisive there, just pulling it, getting the tank before he can get the second tank in. Every tank that comes in makes it harder and harder to break this position, so just getting top of it right away with the probes. He has 3 Nexus behind this, so he has extra chrono boost as well. He can catch back up on probes that he loses. So a really good decision there by Classic.
So the Stalkers are going to come in here now and just poke, and I don't think he could do much more than this. Whenever you see the tanks kind of connected like that, one on the low ground, one on the high ground, it's always a mistake to try to attack in.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, especially without a robo, right? Like, he does have a sentry maybe for hallucination, but without the robo, you can't really get the... Oh, he has an observer, right? So he has a robo, but there's no war prism, right? So there's no way to juggle up and down, blink down and pick up and go back in again. So the potential is quite limited here.
Yeah, there's just not a lot that he can do at this point. One of the things that always happens though when you see these 2-base pushes is if it gets shut down, I always feel like the game kind of it's very simplified, right? It's very easy for the defender, I think, to carry it out.
Yes.
Like, as long the climax in some ways of this game, assuming this goes like most of the games we've seen, it already happened.
Yeah.
Right. It was all about that push working and trying to punish the Stalkers, and so now you're kind of playing from behind. It's especially after a failed push, it's hard to just take a third base because you don't have anything to defend it because you lost it all in the push.
Yeah, you try to find something to change the status quo of the game, right? So these Vikings did find some kills to equalize the probe count a little bit, or the worker count rather. And we see the move out here from Kira now, and this is obviously now very, very committed.
Yeah.
More so because of how the early push went, but even without the early push, this is still a very, very committed timing, right? Where he really wants to find critical damage here.
There's a small period where you can kind of kite this. Oh, I don't know about that. Okay, Stim is about to finish. Now there's, I think there's 2 medevacs up there, right? Yeah, there's 2 medevacs above that. And it's really dicey when you're with Stalkers in a phase like this to try to clip the Marines, because they're probably going to heal. You're going to lose all your shields. The shields don't come back that quickly, right? But what he's trying to do is force a siege, and that's what we saw. If you can ever force all the tanks to siege and just run away and just do that like 2 times,
by
probably,
so much time,
yeah, then you probably have enough to actually deal with the push. So, you know, Cure, he's still here, but his foothold, it's kind of a weird spot on the map.
Yeah, he kind of needs to find a way to get across the map a little bit quicker here, because, you know, Archons are coming in, Charge is finished, the Forge is kicking in, but obviously the upgrade is still very far away. These are +1 Marines versus 0-0 Zealots, so they will do quite well. Getting on top of these tanks is very, very important.
Yeah, the tanks are kind of off to the side here, and they're going to do a lot of damage. The Stalkers are kind of late as well. Yeah. They do end up taking out most of these tanks, but is this Marine Ball too much?
Yeah, the Marines doing very, very well so far, but reinforcements coming in, Immortal coming in as well. This might be enough in Classic.
Yeah, Cure, I mean, he's not done, but I'm worried, you know, with the tank count really low. You know, remember, you know, these medevacs here, they can't heal forever. They are going to get drained of energy. So sometimes these fights, it looks like Terran's probably going to be able to power through, only to, you know, have the final stim come down and all the
here comes the boys.
Wow. So I thought this was going to happen earlier, and I wonder if it should have happened earlier.
Yeah, I think Kier was still very unsure about his position, right? And now after he got the first initial trade out, like, okay, now if I hold the boys, it's a good chance to work, especially when he still has these +1 Marines versus so many Zealots.
So he's got the Archon. That's going to be really important because the splash damage can really thin that out. He might want to sack the Nexus. I'm not sure. He's going to come in now. This is a lot back here. I don't see enough Zealots here to really tank this. I think there's just no way to kill off the Marines. I think Kier just won the game.
Yeah, the Zealots just evaporated to the +1 Marines, right? There was no armor upgrade from the Protoss in this situation. You needed more Immortals, more Archons probably to actually hold this.
Yeah, and he's going to come right through here. He's going to cut down that pylon. That empowers the Robo. We're going to see GG. And Kier taking game number 2. Beautifully done. And I think that's basically what he needs to do for game 3.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to see something similar, a bit more aggressive. I'm not sure what the map is, but that will probably come into effect as well.
So we're, you got me, Ziggy?
Yeah.
I said I forgot, and Ziggy went,
yeah.
I pulled the map, I was like, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so map 3 is... Botanical. Okay. So what do you think about this map?
I can't say that this is not in the ladder, is it? I'm pretty sure, right? I don't think this is one of the ladder maps. No, it's not. So I don't think I've seen this before.
Yeah, we've got a lot of new maps here. I mean, Kier versus Classic on this one, I think it's almost about just kind of the way the matchup looks, and the fact that, like, I mean, the splash damage dilemma of Storm and Thermal Lance with the Colossus is still, like, really strong. And I do feel like the Terran, it's all about trying to, like, grapple the Protoss down. And it worked in that game. It's funny because it failed. The initial push failed, which in my mind I thought, okay, well, this game's probably it's probably going to end with a Protoss victory. But I don't think Classic handled the second part of the push that well.
Yeah, I think a big thing was that the sentry died, I think, in the initial push, right? And I don't think he ever remade one to actually get hallucinations cut across the map to see what was coming.
Yeah.
That's a really big deal, because obviously if there's more shield batteries, if he has maybe a few more Archons, that fight can look a lot different, right?
I wonder if you should have just given up the third Nexus there. I thought when there's this many SCVs on the other side of the map, maybe you should just retreat with everything and make more Zealots. Anyways, we've got Kier in the top left, Classic in the bottom right. As we're now in game 3 with these two. Remember, the winner of this is going to escape this group, moving on to the next phase of the RSL. The loser is going to go to the loser's match.
Yeah, and I would expect either of these players, if they go to the loser match, would probably have a decent chance of making it out as well, as they're both really, really strong players, right? Top tier caliber players.
Yeah, so I feel like, especially with the way that last game went, and the way that Kier's games went earlier, I think he needs to go for some kind of a kill move. The problem, though, is, like, how many of those does he have? Remember, if he loses here too, it is going to be another Protoss.
Another Protoss, exactly. Yeah, so he has to keep that in mind as well. But that's the benefit and the downside of having a group with just one race in, right? You can prepare for just one matchup, but you have to prepare that much more for that matchup because you need to have a larger variety of things you can bring out, right?
Yeah, like the longer the day goes, the more of your games get exposed.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually it's like, okay, you know, how many build orders do you have?
Yeah, exactly.
So, in this game, again, I feel like Classic probably not going to do anything cheesy or crazy. He seems to be the most conservative Protoss, maybe in the whole world. It's cool to see him doing this and succeeding. One of the reasons why I love Protoss and play Protoss is that I liked the fact that there were so many sharp edges in the tech. You can have one game where you play really safe and careful and upgrade and scout, and then you can have another game where you do some insane cheese, some crazy all-in. And that all really comes down to the fact that after the Cybernetics core finishes, you have these crazy directions the game can go.
Yeah, and that's also led to that you have a bunch of different categories of Protoss players where you have your stats, and these days your classics to go more into the macro category, and then you have your heroes, your SOSs, your partings who are more wild.
Yeah. You never know what crazy strat they're going to come up with. And I do feel like if you're going to be in most of StarCraft's history, if you're going to be a good Protoss player, you have to have a little bit of both. But we do have these moments where it's like, actually, no. I'm going to play Protoss as if I'm a macroing Zerg every time. So in this game, we have the factory on the way, and we need to see, is there going to be a starport here? And is it going to look a little bit like the last game? Terran, I think, have more different unit compositions in the early mid game that they can make than any other race in any of the StarCrafts, because of the different add-ons for the starport, the factory, the barracks. So you can kind of end up with these different Swiss Army knife unit comps that can kind of engage in very specific ways, and that can be tricky for the Protoss to fight.
Yeah, definitely tricky. The one benefit of that from the other side is that the Blink Stalker actually deals with a lot of those issues, right? With a few of these tank pushes aside, in general, Blink Stalkers are pretty good versus, let's say, Banshees, let's say Mine Drops, let's say Hellion Run-Bys, whatever, right? But obviously, it's figuring out exactly what's going on is still needed so you can be in position.
So this is this is kind of a funny fight here. All right, at the end, the Marine does lose against the Stalker, and we're going to have
I think this was very good for Classic, actually. Because
yeah, of course.
I think this sets up not only losing the units, but obviously he's trying to set up the same push as he did last game, right?
Yeah.
Where he takes the map control, and now with the follow-up, it's going to be with the medevac, and he's going to try to hit. But that got so much weaker now after losing these Marines.
Yeah, this is pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think the Stalkers and the Zealots can be replaced. But let's watch the Cyclone here.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Cyclone can get some pretty good fights. He's going to hallucinate the Phoenix, and that, I think, should go over the army. We'll see. Actually, he's kind of moving it. Not that he knows if the hallucination's coming, but I think this is going to just not see anything. Now, if he gets into the main and he sees it's empty, then that also kind of tells a story. But
yeah, no third command center.
Yeah.
He's coming from still a tech lab on the factory. You'll see he sees the tank popping, which is also massive, right?
Yeah, so he knows what kind of game this is. Ideally, you'd want to see what the unit comp is. Okay, is there 1 to 2 Vikings, or is there an extra Cyclone or whatever? Yeah. And he's going to drop here now. I don't know about this. I feel like this is really, really risky.
Yeah, Blink is just about to finish, but gets out just in time.
Oh my God! Yeah, 5 seconds away. All that to basically just do a little bit of damage.
But yeah, Cure basically recognizing that because of the earlier trade that he kind of lost his initial timing here, right? So now he's sitting back a little bit and trying to build up for a later timing. He's going for the Cloak Banshee. Classic did scout the tech lab on the starport, so he has could be a Raven, could be a Viking or something else, but he has some inkling that this is coming at least.
Yeah, and he doesn't see any Raven yet, right? And you know when you make a Banshee like this, I wonder, do you want it to push with the army, or do you want it to hit somewhere else? I guess he's kind of answering that question right now. He's going to show the Banshee here with this.
Yeah, I think with the SCV coming, he's probably going to go with the army initially, and then once he's actually got set up, he might bring it around into the main or third. We'll have to wait and see.
So, the Stalkers, again, Classic has to be careful with this. I get the idea that he's trying to kind of chip away at this, but if you mismanage this, look how many bruised Stalkers there are now.
Yeah.
He's going to come in here. This angle's actually pretty damn good here for Classic, and Classic's going to force his way in. Is this an overextension, or does this work?
It buys time at least. I think it was a bit cost inefficient, but the position is not as scary anymore, right? The tanks are sieged up quite far out, so he's not threatening anything in the immediate future, so he can use this time to get a few more units out, and maybe a shield battery coming up and so on, right?
Okay, so he's going to continue to move up here. Now, this is always what you want to do when you have a two-base push like this, is you get in between them, and you just try to kill everything that's reinforcing. Now, oh my God. No, I think that finishes, right?
That finishes.
Yeah, that's going to finish. Okay, so he's going to come down here now. He's hitting. Good targeting with the Immortal. There's a decent number of Marines. The Immortal is, not great against Marines at all, but it's something, right? You'll take anything here. I think he can stop the bunker from finishing. I don't see a second SCV.
Yeah, no, the tanks going down is massive here, right? Because there's no stim with the Marines. So the Marines are basically just super exposed once the tanks are gone. And yeah, usually these kind of pushes are so locked into like actually fortifying the position with the tanks, and then you just hold it, and then the reinforcement tanks is what actually allows you to push through, right? But in this scenario, he just immediately Immortal pops, he just immediately goes on top of it, gets the tanks, and once the tanks are gone, the push is basically neutered, right?
Right. I mean, it's hard now. Now, we did see Cure win this game, a game like this before, but I think this one's going to be even harder. He's got 2 eBays, and he's making a 3rd command center, so he's not going to try to, punch back twice as hard like he did in game 2. He's going to go into a macro game, but that makes me worried for Cure because I think Cure is just so, as good as he is, I think Classic is just so strong in the late game.
Yeah, it's a tricky position, right? It's kind of like cursed if you do, cursed if you don't, right? Like you either try to go for a follow-up attack that could or could not work, or you try to go for macro and hope that you can somehow maybe find some, like with the Banshees, maybe find some probe damage to equalize the game a little bit.
Yeah, so he's going to try to just kill a couple workers. I mean, that Banshee didn't even pay for itself.
Yeah.
Probably would have been better to just save that Banshee for whenever the next inevitable push would come. Now, this could be a game where Classic, because he's already got so much momentum behind him, and the game's gone on for long enough, he's really starting to fill in all of his tech. Actually getting the Dark Shrine here, by the way. He could try to just attack the Terran as the Terran's trying to land a 3rd CC.
Yeah, that's usually the best time to attack a Terran in any matchup. It's just as they're securing their new base. Before they're completely set up, it's usually their most vulnerable point. So he might look for a trade here. I don't think he's going to try to commit to a kill or anything, but he might want to just slow him down so he can continue progress on his side of the map without any worry.
Yeah, so he's got the Warp Prism set up here, and the idea is that when the command center starts to land, you can fly in here and unload and warp in Zealots and DTs. So he's going to see that. Now, there's a really well-placed turret, so we'll see if he ends up just flying right into that. Yes, okay. But one turret's never going to be enough, so he does a huge warp in here, and this is where you run into the front, just like this.
Very nice execution. Gets a really good trade up the front. He has to deal with the Zealots in the main base in the meantime, so the 3rd is going to get lifted. We'll see if he can actually get the kill on the 3rd or not. I don't think so. CV damage happening.
Oh my god, this is brutal, man. We saw the Orphan army end up merging with the army pushing in the front.
Zealot sandwich.
Yeah. It's like, all right, we're gonna do a surround here right in your natural. Yeah. So the Zealots are expendable, but even Classic, he's so good. He says, no, I have a recall available. I'll use every resource at my fingertips.
Yeah.
And he pulls that back, and Terran's back to square one.
Yeah, now we have to do this all over again, right? Now we have to secure the 3rd, but Classic is going to be prepped for the next wave. And the DTs are coming in as well, and another prison coming out. So now the next wave is going to have DTs in the main base, which is going to make cleaning it up even more tricky for Cure. In the meantime, 5th base going up, Robo Bay going down, 2nd Forge coming down. So Classic is by no means all in. He's just getting more and more ahead with every trade.
Okay, the infantry is going to come out again. And, I mean, look at Classic. He's filled in every every expansion in the bottom of the map.
Yeah.
Terran's going to try to move out and attack. And this attack should be taken very seriously.
Yeah, this is very desperate from Cure, right? Like, he's taking a lot of damage. He's on 2 base versus 5. Like, he has to find some sort of good trade at least, if not direct damage.
Yeah, kind of mismanaging the Zealots there. They're trickling through a little bit too slowly so they can get sniped off here. Classic should be very careful to not overextend, by the way. We've had a couple, especially yesterday, games where people committed a little too hard there and didn't appreciate, if they just kind of waited and dragged the game out, it would have been better.
Yeah.
DTs are all over the map here. And, remember, there's no Raven with this, right?
Yeah.
So, if you can, just have him waste a couple scans, there might be one DT that can just do so much damage you can't do anything.
Yeah, and even in this case, where Cure's economy, just using scans is already a lot of damage in this case. And again, Classic is pulling back here. Again, he doesn't need to fight. He just wants to make sure that Cure doesn't get to scale up like he wants to. But he's actually taking the fight.
Okay, he's going to continue to try to push here. And I got to say, I mean, that's pretty big for Cure. He's still alive.
Yeah.
He's going to get his 3rd base. If this 3rd base gets up, the game goes on. And Classic, if he doesn't handle this next attack right, Cure's going to really be in this game. I love the DT, though, here in the natural.
Yeah, so annoying for Cure to deal with.
Yeah, and he can't even take his could take this off the screen, right?
Yeah.
When you stutter step micro.
It's very hard for Kier because he has to win this fight and then also have enough left over to get across the map to actually do damage, right? Because just winning the fight is not enough.
Okay, this is a very clumsy attack here from Classic.
Yeah, it ends up being very, very good for Kier.
So there's 15 SCVs killed. That DT has been doing a lot of work back at home. So right now, Kier's on 39 SCVs. Excuse me. So, like, can Kier make something happen with what he's got? There's more than half of these medevacs are empty when it comes to energy.
Yeah, Classic just needs to buy a little bit of time. He has 2-2 coming in, he has Thermal Lance coming in, he has another Colossus coming in, a second Robo coming in as well. He just has to buy just like 10-15 seconds is probably even enough to just get these upgrades out, and then he should feel pretty comfortable with the number of zealots he has. Big Dog coming into the main base, though.
So, wait, is that empty? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't realize we were in Classic's vision. I was like, what is he doing? So, he unloads here. I don't know if this is going to get a whole lot done. It might have been better to go for another base. Does Kier actually know about how many bases Classic has? Because Classic, a lot of people kind of expand in their quadrant, but he's like just going in a straight line through the bottom.
He probably assumes by the number of units that Classic has that he must have a pretty good economy, right?
Right.
But you never know in the situations, and like you're so desperate, you're just like, please give me a fight, so I can actually counterattack and find some damage. But yeah, Classic is just very patient, doesn't actually overextend. 3-3 coming in even, and that's the probably a little bit overkill, but
so I mean, this is scary. This is where all the infrastructure is. Classic is going to go all the way back. I actually respect this move here from Classic instead of just trying to go for a base trade. I think why make the game messy when you can just kind of run around and play whack-a-mole?
Yeah.
Just kill off every medevac. Just clear up the army. You're going to always have more long-term. So that's hitting there. I assume that there's a recall available.
Yeah, even if like you can probably sack this base, to be honest, as long as you save most of the probes and in the bottom left as well, then he should be alright.
So he finally cleans up that attack in the main. And Protoss is just trying to eventually clear this up so that the big push can come. What is up in the top middle? Is that an expansion?
Yeah, it's like a half base, I think. Probably with gold base, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I thought for a second he'd put a gateway up there or something.
Yeah.
So, you know, remember that even though Terran's getting kills, they're also trading out their army. Protoss is winning every fight that they take overall.
Yeah. Yeah, and still, Kier is still very much all in. No upgrades on the way, no force command center. He has to keep fighting and keep fighting good fights. That's the only way he can stay in this game. But the 2-2 is really, really strong here for the Zealots.
Yeah, the Colossi are really, they really negate whatever advantage you can get from stutter step micro, right? You're just eating huge chunks of damage over and over and over again. We'll see if Kier stays in the... Okay, no, he doesn't. All right. Nope, sorry. We don't have to see it all. Nicely done. Classic moves on.
Yeah.
Killing it this year.
Yeah, looking so solid in his macro play and so confident as well in some of his moves. Maybe too confident a little bit in the first game. There looked a little bit dicey, but he brings it back.
Yeah, Kier, I think he had the right idea in like trying to get in there and cut the Protoss down. But this is the problem: is Classic's just so good at defending.
Yeah.
There was a really weird exchange early on before the attack happened, where we had like Marines and Stalkers.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I was talking about something else when it happened. Eventually, I'm like, oh, this is like all their units.
Yeah.
Like they're training out everything now. So I'm curious what the game would have looked like had Kier gotten what he wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely was trying to set up some similar push to the previous games, right? Where he goes with the first medevac, maybe the first tank and so on. But because of these units losing, like dying, it just takes out all the breath of the push, and you just have to figure out a new plan from there.
It's funny too, because like when you move out of the map before you have a medevac, like you are really you are leaving it to fate in some way. So here's our results so far. That was our third best of 3. So we're gonna go to the obviously Classic survives this group, but Kier's not out yet. He'll be playing in the final match here. In our standings so far here, and then we're doing a plug, right? We're doing a plug. Yeah, we are. Okay, so guys, tickets are on sale. The occupancy of our venue, I think it's somewhere between like 200 and 300. So the reason why I'm saying that is that there's a limited amount of tickets. If you get a ticket, fly into Seoul, make it into a vacation. You're not going to regret it. If you're in Korea, definitely consider coming down. There's not that many live events. This year there was 10 days of GSL. Okay,
absolutely.
10 days.
Yeah, that's not much.
That's not much. And by the way, if you want to compete, guys, remember, if you've played in any of the qualifiers, you can play in our live event. You just have to have participated. Obviously, we can't cover your travel and accommodation, but yeah, maybe you want to do that. You want to fly in here, book a hotel, compete. Who knows? Maybe you end up winning the whole thing, and you're going to play on day 2 on December 14th as we crown an RSL offline champion. We're super excited for this. It's been a lot of work, a lot of planning. But, you know, and I'm glad that we have this, like, studio space where we can kind of create a cozy broadcast. It's kind of, it's easy to run, especially now that we have everything set up. But I think there is something to having an offline event where people get together.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know,
like nothing feels the same as going to a big offline event, and just like the energy of the crowd, the players being on the edge and just being in the zone.
Yeah,
nothing is quite like it.
People all together, all experiencing the same thing. There's something magical about it. So consider getting a ticket. That's at tastelessthreads.com. That's my merch site. But if you load that up, the first items for sale are going to be the standard ticket and the premium ticket. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to go to the losers match here for day 2 of the RSL.
To do a similar. Welcome back, everybody, to the RSL. I'm standing back here on the casting desk with Sort of, and we are about to go into the losers match here in the RSL Group B. One of these 2 Protoss players are going to be eliminated from the RSL. One of them is going to advance to face Cure in the final match. Who's going to make it? Better find out. Creator and Trigger.
Yeah, they are both very, very evenly matched, I think, from looking at their previous results. They haven't played that much in recent times, but should be exciting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun match. Both of them have very unique play styles and just the way that they approach their game. Trigger kind of reminds me of another Canadian Protoss player in Huck, and that he has a lot of pride in his micro. He does like the micro trainer custom maps in StarCraft II. His control just looks absolutely spectacular. He's very finesse focused. He loves Blink Stalkers as a result. And Creator, he obviously also has great control. Everybody here playing in the RSL has great control, but he likes to build these compositions where you kind of have to play perfectly. He likes to build these compositions with limitless potential in terms of micro, and those 2 play styles, they're really fun to see clash. Let's see if they give us some fun creative games here as we are loading into map number 1. Going to be Persephone here. Creator spawning in the top left is the blue Protoss. Trigger, the red Protoss here in the bottom left.
Yeah, we talked a little bit in the last series of the categories of Protoss, where it's like you can put a lot of the Protoss players in like different categories, right?
Yeah.
Like the stats and classic category and the hero SOS category. And I would put like Creator, maybe like Nightmare and Sound in their own category as well. But they're all like they play kind of macro games, but they have like their own unique like twist to it.
Yeah, I find a lot of Protoss players historically, it just feels like it's the most expressive race in terms of you have players that are just like complete characters with their play styles, right? Like you said, especially SOS comes to mind as a person liable to do literally anything. I mean, how many times did he proxy 2-gate in that $100,000 final? Yeah, it's fun. It's a really enjoyable thing, and unfortunately PvP we're probably not going to get to enjoy too much of that excitement, that range. It's a relatively stable matchup here as far as things go, although one interesting thing coming in here from Trigger, look at this, 2 gateways here on the high ground. He's actually building
this
not at the ramp.
Yeah, this is not common at all, from what I've seen at least. But like one thing that changed, I think, a lot in the recent patches is the change of like the sentry, right? The light tag getting removed made this matchup, I feel like, less volatile, because going for a sentry early on is less of a risk, less of a liability. You can get the earlier hallucination scouts. It seems like that kind of like helped standardize the matchup a little bit.
Yeah, also the bonus damage that they have versus shields is just so impactful there with the sentry. It's very noticeable when the sentry stops shooting against shields and starts shooting against all. The DPS, it just feels like it falls off a cliff, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, those mass sentry builds don't hit the same.
They're a lot of fun. Sats was my favorite sentry abuser in PvP. Back when very few people besides Max Packs were going for any kind of expansion build.
Yeah.
I feel like Stats was really leading the charge back when he was still actively competing with the very fast sentry play into a Nexus.
Yeah.
This game, we're not really getting that. Creator actually going for the Stargate and an Adept. I believe off of 1 gateway, if I'm not mistaken.
Gate opening, yeah. So both players going kind of quirky here for sure already.
Yeah, you don't see this all that much. I guess we are getting a little bit of that unique flavor here in this this very first PvP.
Okay, we'll see. Probably an Oracle. Say very, very likely an Oracle.
Yeah, I think almost definitely going to be the Oracle here.
Stalker's coming in from Trigger. So we'll see if he can sniff this out and actually be in position, or if this Oracle's going to find a lot of damage.
No, oh, did he actually? Okay, he does see the Adept, so I think I hear the shield battery. Oh no, it's the Gateway. Right, he didn't wall out of the Natural. I completely forgot about this. So the Adept's actually going to get here into the mineral line. This is going to force a probe pull, but really nice control there by Trigger. Look at that. The Adept just cannot close the distance. Oh, even the damage probe going inside the Vespene Geyser, getting the iframes.
Very
oh
cute.
My goodness, it's like a fighting game.
Yeah. So one thing about this map is that you have the close by air spawns, right? And for that reason, the Oracle just hits like that few seconds faster. So we'll see if Trigger is actually, like this timing might catch him off guard just ever so slightly.
Yeah, especially given the Nexus
it's on the map
timing.
as well, yeah.
Yeah, it's coming in now. Gateways are only just now morphing in. The probes, they have to scuttle away, trying to get away as quickly as possible. The Stalkers are warping in, but already 6 probes have fallen, and Creator has a decision to make. Is he going to stick it out and just try and get as much damage as he can, or will he go back home? He's going to go back home with 9 kills in total, and he's like, all right, well, if your army isn't at home, it's certainly coming my way. Throws down another shield battery, but Trigger's already at the door.
Very good force fields here. Catching a Stalker. Can't get the second one.
Yeah, not quite getting the second one there. Just slightly misplaced, and for Creator, that's a little bit of a sigh of relief. Then their Stalker gets warped in. That second shield battery nearly complete now.
Yeah, so very clear, like, conditions right now for the players, as they did a lot of damage. You just have to stabilize as Creator, right? So that's why he's making Void Rays, he's making shield batteries, he's just trying to not die. Trigger realizes that he has to go, but also going into Void Ray shield battery without blink is also very, very tricky, right? So he is still getting the blink behind this.
Yeah, I think Trigger's just going to have to try and do something similar to what Classic did earlier on today, where Classic played a PvP. I think he lost total 16 probes. He did get some good damage of his own later on in the game to kind of even things up, but he was able to fight back and win that PvP versus Creator earlier on today, and Trigger is going to have to hope to pull out some of the same magic here. He's down 10 workers, which is really a lot of
it's
PvP.
A lot. Yeah, for sure. Creator is kind of was cutting a few probes. Just to, like, be able to get out the extra Void Rays, get out the batteries, but he's still quite far ahead, right? But the difference here is also that Trigger doesn't really have any aces to deal damage to Creator, right? There's no Oracles, there's no War Prism, it's just Blink Stalkers, right? So it's going to be hard to actually find that damage.
Wow, Creator is actually pushing with these 2 Void Rays and 3 Stalkers. Trigger's army is across the map, and so these 2 Stalkers in the natural expansion getting isolated. The probes need to get pulled. The Void Rays, they charge up, they take down the Stalkers. Trigger's army was halfway across the map, and now Creator is also able to isolate it over here. He's completely sectioning off this army. He's only taking it piecemeal at a time. It's just a handful of units. Now finally Trigger has the full surround and can take out these Void Rays. What a bizarre push coming in from Creator, but 4 probes killed. Yeah, he lost the Void Rays, but those don't really scale very well in a PvP where Trigger's about to get blinked on, and he killed, like, what, 4 Stalkers?
Yeah, that was probably very good for Creator. Probably a lot better than it should have been had Creator seen this move out happening, right? Or Trigger seen this move out happening. But it did buy him a lot of time as well. The more Immortals are coming out, he's even getting a 3rd Nexus, and he's also going into this Glaive Tech. Actually cancels the cost to charge. I was going to say we saw Classic doing a Glaive Tech earlier, but changed his mind.
Yeah, Adept's going to the main base there of Trigger, but Creator is a little bit too focused right now on the natural expansion to get too much damage done. In total, 5 probes going down, and then the Stasis Ward. Oh, those probes not fully pulled. Oh, no.
That's rough.
A lot of lost mining time. He's already down 14 workers, and that is another, I want to say, like 8 or 9 that aren't mining.
Yeah.
Oh, the mineral income, I'm looking at the bottom right now, it's almost 2,000 for Creator, and Trigger just passed 1K in mineral income.
Yeah.
That is brutal.
Creator knows he's in a good position. He knows he can afford to lose some probes here. So just has him in the front to make sure he doesn't actually die, because that's like the only real way that he could possibly lose this game. If Trigger actually managed to jump on top of him and kill the Immortals, that would be his one ticket back into the game, right?
Yeah, and it's a little bit tricky for Creator because he went Stargate into Robo. So, unless I'm mistaken, he doesn't have Blink yet. He's actually going Charge first, but that means that his army, if he gets caught out of position, Trigger absolutely could punish that with his Blink research done.
Yep.
Although I think with this army supply already, 2 Immortals and the accompaniment of probes that he's got, it feels pretty safe, but that War Prism might be going down.
That's a good pick-off. See if he can actually get out of here without losing too much and still maybe find a probe or 2.
He's actually
blinking in again.
Going straight into the main base, runs up the ramp, blinks, and his goal, I think, is to get some more damage done, blink into the corner, and then recall.
Yeah.
This is doing quite well. We talked about the immobility of Creator's army, and
Yeah.
This is Trigger punishing it. Wow, look at this. The bottleneck right now. The Stalker and the Immortal are completely stuck. between the Stargate and the Pylon, and Trigger doesn't even need a recall. It's like Ring Around the Rosie, man.
Yeah, that was quite good for Trigger, but I don't know if it's enough to equalize the game, but it definitely is something that he needs to... Like, these are the moves he needs to do to actually try to slowly eke his way back into this, right?
Yeah, with charge now done here for Creator, he's going to have a little bit more ability here on these Zealots. You see him warping in a ton more. I'm wondering how Trigger's going to be able to defend against this, because the Stalkers, they're very good against charge Zealots when you're able to blink away and kite like he is right now, but it's kind of like a siege tank push if this actually reaches your side of the map, where you're good at picking off units cross map, but the moment you're backed into a corner is Trigger, then the true firepower of Creator's army composition is unleashed. And with no blink being researched just yet, no forge upgrades coming in here for Creator, I don't think he's expecting to do a transition. I think that he really wants to get a lot of damage done.
Yeah. Definitely looks like it. Like, he's just going to try to go for this timing here. And again, like you said, the Stalker's great at picking stuff off, but holding this push is actually going to be quite tricky for Trigger.
Well, he's making it work right now with just 6 Stalkers here on the front line. He's picking off Zealot after Zealot, trying to shave away at the army supply lead that Creator's got. Creator behind this, adding in a Templar Archive, so it will be Zealot Archon. No blink in the cards yet for Creator. Instead, just to be a full frontal push. War Prism joining in very shortly, I think. And Trigger's actually going to try and catch it before he's ready to go. Blink forward, able to get the War Prism, but not before the Zealots fully unload. That force field actually working in Trigger's favor quite a bit, but you just see the massive value difference in terms of these armies. There are so many Zealots for Creator.
Yeah, so many Zealots, and then also just 3 Immortals on top of everything else, right? So it's just the blink doesn't really give you any advantage in this situation. And yeah, Creator is very patient though. Losing that Prism, he's kind of hesitating a little bit. Gonna give Trigger a little bit more time, but the thing is, are we really buying time for anything that will make this easier for us?
Yeah, because I think Creator is just going to lock and load and go in again, but with Archons next time, right?
Yeah.
He's already got one transformed in back at home. He has the gas to warp in another one in just a moment. But Trigger, he bought himself a lot of time. It wasn't the prettiest of fights, but if he hadn't taken down that Warp Prism, it's likely that Creator would have barreled down on the third base, on the natural expansion.
Yeah.
Instead, Trigger, he's been able to get his army size up significantly enough to equalize. Keep in mind, again, no forge upgrades for Creator. Trigger's on +1 with +2 underway.
Yeah, I don't think that the +2 will come into effect here, but if he can survive until then, it could be huge.
Another engagement now coming in. Trigger looking to get a lot of surface area right now on those Zealots, try and mitigate the splash damage of the Archon. Really good Archon pullback there by Creator. It's still low on HP. Had 8 shields for the longest time, but able to get so much damage done. Still, Trigger, with that surround coming in, almost like a Zerg, able to just swarm Creator out of his side of the map. And now Creator, I think, is going to be feeling a little bit of the pressure because he had so much committed on this. He cut probes. He didn't take a lot of gases. He's still on only 3 gases on his side of the map. And there aren't any forge upgrades done just yet. His +1 might even finish after +2 is done for Trigger.
Yeah, that was an amazing fight from Trigger for sure. The Stalkers coming in from the back as well. I believe he got the Prism with the Stalkers in the back. And now he's healing up his army. Now it's completely tables turned. And like you mentioned before, the +2 is actually coming into big effect here, whereas the +2 timing is going to be really, really hard for Creator to deal with, as he is going to have +0 versus +2.
Yeah, it's possible that we have a +2 timing against +0, just as you said, with a Warp Prism on the front door here of Creator's base, while Creator's taking a 4th, and Trigger is just going guns blazing here on 3 bases. There isn't a transition coming in. He will be able to warp in at least 1 Archon, only 200 gas, so probably won't get a second one in for a little while. And Creator's going to have to really leverage his defensive positioning to try and hold on right now. Those 3 Archons, they can get a lot of splash damage done if Trigger's Zealots are clumped. But that's really the ace up the sleeve here for Creator. These armies now clashing.
The Archons are getting really good splash damage here, for sure. Yeah, Shield battery coming in.
Those Zealots for Trigger, man, they are really bottlenecked right there on that ramp. The Archon's making so much work. Shield battery finally out of energy now. A little bit of shuffling here of these Archons. There aren't enough Stalkers to blink forward and take down this Warp Prism just yet. Those Archons are just anchoring the entire fight right now for Creator. 7 kills on that Archon highlighter right there. They've all got 7 or 8 kills apiece. But is it going to be enough? Because Trigger, he's still warping in. These Archons cannot easily take out this Warp Prism. We still have the 2 Immortals standing strong here for Trigger. But somehow it seems like Creator's holding on.
Yeah, those 2 crazy fights back-to-back from each player.
But the Archons, maybe a little bit too much flare there from Creator. They were so low on energy, and the Immortal, that shot cannot be dodged by lifting up into the Warp Prism. It's not a particle shot the same way that a Stalker is. So those 2 Archons, they get taken out. We do have 2 more warping in. The probes are getting pulled. Round 2 over here with the Archons. Can they make it happen again?
Battery overcharge coming in as well. It's taking a lot of damage at this point though. But again, the tables have kind of reversed here, where Trigger wasn't really getting a fourth behind this, or getting more gases, or getting more tech. It's just kind of staying in the same state of the game. And now the army is slightly bigger for Trigger, and it does have the upgrade advantage. But there's 3 Archons that are still not dealt with.
Yeah, this is a real Protoss' PvP. The game just keeps kind of turning on a dime, where it seems like one player has a really significant advantage, and then they try and push that advantage to a win, but it's barely not enough.
Yeah.
And then the table just completely turns, and now Creator is really going to be reaping the rewards of that 4th Nexus. It's chrono boosting out more probes. The mining is going to be coming through here for Creator in just a moment. And Trigger, he's finally going to spot that Nexus. Now, luckily for him, there actually hasn't been that much mining just yet, partly because Creator's been losing so many probes, pulling them to try and stay alive, that he hasn't been able to saturate the space. But can Trigger actually get that much done about it? He does have the speed zones on his side, but it's hard to push up this ramp.
Yeah, the tricky part now for Creator is that he's taken the line fourth, right? And he doesn't have Blink. And Trigger does have Blink, so he can very easily just pull back and forth like this. So it's going to be very tricky for Creator to actually be in position everywhere.
And if there's one player that's going to be really good at blinking in on 2 different sides, it will be Trigger here, as he's able to barely take down that Immortal, and then hopefully blink back to safely. Okay, well, I'm kind of eating my words right there. I guess it works out for Trigger in the end, but...
Yeah, a little bit messy, but it works out.
Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest, but hey, you won the fight.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
This is army supply right now is looking really, really strong for Trigger.
Yeah, but keep in mind, it is basically just Zealots and Stalkers here for Trigger, whereas Creator's going for those Archons.
Yeah, +3 coming in as well. Does Trigger even have a Templar Archives? I don't think he does, right?
I think he's warped in a couple Templar and made, I want to say like 2 or 3 Archons total so far in this game. He's playing a very low gas style right now. He's getting 2 more on the board. Yeah, only 1 Archon actually has gone down. Thank you very much, Mapu, for pointing that out. Yeah, it's been a very low gas style game here from Trigger, and when you play this kind of style in a PvP as well, especially against a player like Creator who's going into this much gas and building this many Archons, you really want to keep trading with your opponent, because if they suddenly get, say, 7 or 8 Archons, your Zealots are no longer doing anything. Yeah. Your advantage here as Trigger is taking very small engagements where the Archons, they cannot kind of combine their powers with the splash damage the way that Creator would like them to.
Yeah, it's interesting to see PvP moving in this direction, away from the mass disruptor games of the past.
Oh yeah, I love this so much more.
It's kind of similar to like how some of the PvC playstyles and some of the PvT's playstyles plays as well. It's just mass gateway, mass expansion, low gas count. Makes for a lot more exciting games for sure.
Yeah, it's very fun. Very fun indeed, but for Creator, the fun might be running out here in just a moment, because his army's not looking bad, but the army supplies tell a very different story. 40 plus in the advantage right now of Trigger. Can these Archons make the dream happen once more for Creator? Because a lot of the army, it's tied up, and oh man, you can see the frustration there for Creator. He knows that he had that game so close to being won. He tried to close it out, but Trigger was able to fight back, and in the end, Trigger with kind of a crazy turnaround.
Yeah, he was down like a solid 15-20 army supply in that first fight, right? And just somehow gets the perfect engagement with the flank, the Stalkers coming in from the back. And even though the Archon stayed alive for a long time in the first fight, it still wasn't enough for a Creator to actually take the fight we thought he would take.
Yeah, those 3 Archons just anchored the defense so well there for Creator, but I think just the probe pulls getting added into the mix, even though Trigger didn't have a 4th base and Creator did, we saw it at the very end. It was saturated with just a handful of probes. Yeah. Ideally, in a situation like that one, where you know that your opponent hasn't seen the Nexus just yet, you want to, say, oversaturate 1 base. Usually it's going to be like the natural expansion or the 3rd base, and then you just recall a clump of the probes.
Yeah.
And you get like 10 or 11 over there. You start mining the minerals very efficiently. Creator didn't even really have an option to do that, because he lost so many workers earlier on to those pushes just trying to survive versus Trigger. So that 4th base, not really returning the investment coming in there from Creator, and really an insane PvP.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've seen one quite like that. I mean, remember the way it started. There was no wall in for Trigger, and that was a 1-gate expand from Creator.
It's both very unique builds.
Yeah.
And then the Oracle finding insane damage, Creator being ahead for most of the early and mid game, and then just one bad fight and just all swings, and then from there on out, Trigger was in control. Even though he couldn't finish the game on the first counterattack, he still had full control of the map, and just took it from there.
Yeah, having map control on a map like that one as well with a healing zone, also very helpful, especially if you're playing this kind of mass gateway unit style that is so popular in PvP these days, because you saw it right there used by Trigger. He's healing a ton of Zealots and Stalkers, and for like the first 15 or so years of StarCraft II's history, you're pretty close to it, we didn't get to heal Protoss units. Maybe if you played a 2v2, you get the Terran player to come in with your SCVs and start repairing your Stalkers, which is something you can do. It's very fun. But normally in a 1v1 game, you don't really get a chance to do that. But it's a big win there for Trigger when he plays that kind of style, when the fights are so close and the trades are so even, to be able to step back and be like, you know what, I have map control. I'm going to be able to heal up these units and then go in again for another round.
Yeah, it's kind of gives map control another advantage, right? So just you have map control, you have control of the healing zones. You can get that much more value out of your units.
Yeah, the healing zones honestly have been one of my favorite additions into the map making process in StarCraft II. And it's just the right amount too, because honestly, if it was overdone, it could be really bad.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think the map makers have just been so good at not putting them in every single map, and when they are on maps, there are always some kind of limitation.
Yeah, that's another cool thing with the new maps as well, is also the worker-only paths that we're going to be seeing moving forward. I'm excited to see how that's going to change gameplay in some matchups.
Yeah, I kind of wish we were back at the 6 worker starts, so we could have some proper proxy 2 gates in the main bases of people with those worker-only paths. But yeah, with 12 workers, it's not really in the cards. It still is a lot of fun, though. I'm curious where that's going to lead us in the next couple of years. And guys, you're wondering why we're blabbing on a bit. I think that the players are probably going to wait for just a couple more minutes to try and get ready. Creator looked kind of emotional there after that last match, because he knew he had it so close to being won, and then unfortunately just did not break his way. And this is an elimination match here in the RSL. The loser of this series is out entirely. Thank you very much for bringing up the score here as we take a look at the standings overall. Classic advancing in flying colors today. Had a very close series versus Cure.
Yeah.
That was honestly the highlight of my night here, was watching Classic versus Cure.
Yeah, but I also think looking at this group, Classic looks like the clear favorite to move on. It's hard to look past his recent accomplishments and his recent form.
Yeah, and right now it is Creator versus Trigger. Both down 0-1 so far here in this group, but Trigger leading the series 1-0. If he wins one more game, he will face Cure in that final match to qualify for the playoffs here in the RSL. It's the most Protoss-heavy group that we have here. And I love my Protoss boys, but I'm kind of pulling for Cure here, just because we already have 2 Protoss players going to the grand finals of RSL, the offline event in the end of the year, and now we already have MaxPax, Zound, and Classic qualifying for the playoffs. 3 out of 3 players are Protoss. The Protoss players, they're happy.
Yeah,
they're eating well these days.
Yeah, for sure. But also, like, going back to Cure, I feel like you're always happy to watch Cure play. Like, even in EWC and in the series he lost versus Cell, those games were very, very entertaining, very high level. Like, he always delivers great series, even if he doesn't win all of them.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad there for Cure versus Serral. Just throw it back to EWC, because it was a sweep for Serral, if memory serves, but every single game was so close to Cure just winning it. The guy is absolutely incredible. He's been a top 3 Terran player in the world for I don't know how many years now, but
so consistent. Yeah,
it just gets overshadowed a little bit by Maru in Korea and Clem on the international stage, but he will have a chance against the winner of this series happening now. We go back to Maganatha for Game 2 between Trigger and Creator. Creator, the blue Protoss, spawning in the bottom right. Trigger, the red Protoss, here in the top left.
Alright, we'll see if we see any more one-gate shenanigans or no wall shenanigans. Looks like a lot more standard than last game so far.
Yeah, and actually, I'm trying to remember if you can build a shield battery on the low ground here with that pylon placement there from Trigger. I think you can. It's always interesting to me the different approaches the players take in walling, especially Protoss players. I feel like the Terran wallings, the optimal solution is usually so obvious, but for Protoss players, it's been messed around with a lot, especially in PvP. You know, the beginning of the Legacy of the Void, no one really respected the Adept, and people also weren't very good with the Adept shades. Yeah, being able to utilize those to pick off workers. We had, I want to say, it might have been even more than a year where it felt like people weren't really walling in PvP very much. There was a lot of Nexus first play. People would go 2 gates very quickly, and you would chrono boost out Stalkers, and that's usually how you would deal with the Adepts.
Yeah.
But yeah, these days the wall-in, it almost feels necessary in a PvP to be able to throw down a pylon or a shield battery to block those Adepts from sheeting in. So it's a little bit of a treat when a player like Trigger opts to just build 2 gateways right in the main, right by the Nexus. I think another American player that I could think of, Trigger being from Canada, is Estrella from California. who also likes to kind of skip that wall in sometimes.
Yeah.
In a PvP, and actually, hold that thought. I actually don't need to babble on too much. What do we have going on here?
They're both.
I was getting into the mode to try and fill the first 2 minutes because nothing ever happens before the cybernetics core is done. But we have 2 hidden pylons. I don't know if Crater's actually. Oh, there is still the probe there. It's by the Zelnaga Watchtower.
Both so are still here.
We might have 2 proxies. It's gonna be double Robo. Double Robo. It's beautiful.
I can't wait for us to just fight on this screen for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, we don't even... Mappa, you can just take a break, man. Just leave it on the 2 Robos. We could stay there for the next 3 or 4 minutes. I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine. Now, my question is, how long is it going to be until they actually find out that the other player has their Robo 1 screen away in the center of the map?
This could be very awkward as well. It could maybe turn into some sort of like base trade scenario as well, potentially, where they both just like go on one side of the map, considering the map layout is like kind of split down the middle, right?
It could, but looking at the build order, okay, so we have 2 adepts now coming in for Creator. Does he have 1 or 2 adepts out on the map already? Is it just the 1? Okay, it's 2. So 2 adepts here for Creator. For Creator, this might just be a Warp Prism drop. Right out of the get-go. Like, we have the Immortal coming in from Trigger. This is a little bit more of the aggressive, like, full-on approach of trying to break down a natural expansion, whereas Creator is kind of going for the more finesse play, trying to potentially take down workers there in the main base, and that might not go Creator's way, although he does get 1 Adept here in the main already.
Battery will finish up, though, which should keep the rest of the probes safe.
Yeah, for a very long time.
Yeah.
Adept's gonna have a lot of work to do to actually get rid of all the energy on that shield battery. And oh no, these Adepts getting stuck out.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate for Creator. So the Adept in the main base is still alive though, so he's gonna have 2 Adepts now with the Prism coming in with the second one.
Yeah, but Creator really wanted to have 4 Adepts in the main base with his Warp Prism, and instead it's just gonna be 2. So he's gonna get some damage done. And one thing that's very important to note, by the way, is that the natural, very dangerous position here for Creator. That pylon is really vulnerable to wall in, but also with this Warp Prism, these Adepts are getting good damage done in the main base, but Trigger's going to know there's a Warp Prism, or a Robo, proxied in the center of the map. He's going to be looking for this.
Yeah, we can see probe still going down. The only Adept dies, so this should be the last one. 5 probes, so puts Creator in a great economical position, but like you mentioned, this Robo getting caught could definitely equalizing things, and also this low ground defense is going to be very critical here.
Yeah, but Trigger doesn't know exactly where the Robo is, so he's not even going to try and find it. Instead, he's going to go right for the throw, actually warping in 3 sentries, so Trigger be utilizing Force Field here against the probe pull.
No energy overcharge for the battery.
Oh, and the Immortal in the main base, so Creator getting some punches in of his own. He could use that Immortal to focus down the Stalkers and then go for the pylons there, go for the production of his opponent. Really a wild, almost base trading situation that we have right now. It seems like Trigger has just a little bit too much army here in the main base. That shield battery running out of energy, more units getting warped in. The probes are taking a citizen's arrest here on this Immortal. Probes fighting Immortals on both sides of the map.
Coming in. He's gonna deal with the probes very easily.
I don't know, man. I feel like Creator just might not have enough. The army in Creator's main base is standing strong. There are no probes left. He was able to get good economic damage done. I mean, he still has these 2 Immortals. There's a possibility this one carries on, but I mean, with the Stalkers being added into the mix right now here for Trigger, I don't know if you have the best Warp Prism Immortal Micro in the world if you can make this happen.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if, this is a very, very unique situation, right? I was always wondering if Trigger should have recalled there, but obviously now it's kind of too late already, right?
Yeah, I think for Trigger, you're just going to try and take the fight because Creator, he's playing to basically have perfect micro. This is why he's not tapping out. He's playing to have perfect micro, and you can see every time units get warped in on this Warp Prism, there is frustration on his face because he knows that what is basically an impossible task is getting even more impossible. And there are 4 Stalkers and 1 Sentry that all shoot up here for Trigger. So the Warp Prism micro, it's going to be on a timer the moment that engagements start. And Creator's still not scouting that Robo, so neither player knows where the opponent's Robo is, despite them being just a screen away. Although Creator and Trigger both losing a Nexus, it will be revealed in a moment.
Yeah, this could have been very, very weird if they both had a bit more units, or if Creator had a bit more units. Like, there could be a race to go to kill the Robo. But as it is, it's just, with the Robo being out there, there's no chance that Creator can kill all the buildings in the main base and also kill the Robo before Trigger kills everything else.
Oh, I didn't even think about this. With the Sentry, you can hallucinate Phoenixes. Now Trigger's just going to go right for the Robo and Pylon. The last 2 remaining buildings here for Creator. He does have, I think, 1 probe on the map, but there isn't any money to build any additional structures. It's actually just working on the Robo right now. Time is just not on Creator's side. That's going to be it. GG, as Trigger will advance with a 2-0 victory over Creator to face Cure in the final match of Group B here in RSL Season 3.
Yeah, that should be an exciting one, for sure. A bit unfortunate for Creator. Just the build's not really working out in the last game here.
Yeah, it's very difficult to make it happen if you go for the Warp Prism first for the Adept drop versus somebody who's going for the Immortal first because of that reason. The Immortal army just gets online so much faster. Yeah. He's able to push the ramp so much more quickly, and even though there was some really good economic damage done there by Creator and some nice micro with the Immortal and Warp Prism as well to focus down the Stalkers, to go after the probes and the pylons and the main base of his opponent, Trigger just had way too much.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, getting the 2 Adepts caught in the early game there by Trigger was a very nice move that kind of made the Warp Prism play kind of neutered for Creator.
Yeah, really a funky PvP game. That was a very fun series. It was short, but it was sweet, man. We had a really back and forth game number 1 where it just felt like one player would get the advantage and then the defender would be able to somehow barely claw it back. And then game number 2, the proxy Robo is just a screen away. Not spotted until the Nexuses both go down and the players are revealed. I mean, what more could he ask for in a PvP?
Yeah, crazy games.
All right, guys. If you want to support the RSL, one of the best ways that you could do it is go to youtube.com/@ReviveSC2. We're trying to get RSL into the algorithm here on YouTube. A lot of people nowadays, when they watch StarCraft II action, they're not watching it live on Twitch or live on any other streaming platform. A lot of it's going to be on YouTube, and that makes sense just because of the time zones and because of the availability. You know, we're getting older as a community. The game's been out 15 years. We're busy. We got work to do. So we invite you to get on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment, click the bell. It might sound cliche because everybody always says this on YouTube, but it actually does help YouTube push our content to other people who also want to see StarCraft, because I don't know how many times I've seen people in chats find out what the RSL is, even today. Like, it's a recent thing that happened, so we're really trying to get the word out. If you could subscribe to us on YouTube and leave a comment, we would appreciate it. And we're going to take a short break. When we get back, it's going to be the final match here of Group B in the RSL Season 3. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.
Hello, everybody. We're back, and we're ready for the final game here in the second day of the RSL. It's going to be a rematch of Trigger versus Cure.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I feel like the first series, Trigger didn't really get to showcase where his PvT is at. I know he's been practicing a lot. His control is top tier, but Cure honestly just kind of rolled over him with these early pushes, these very aggressive builds, and I think that Trigger's going to take that kind of on the chin, learn from it, and hopefully come in with some better defense here in the final set.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because Classic did such a good job stopping Cure's pushes, but I think he's one of the only Protosses in the whole world that can do that. I think Trigger had a pretty tough time. I imagine Cure's going to be coming into this pretty relaxed. Keep in mind, he's had to deal with Classic now, but he won't have to deal with Classic for a long time in this tournament after this.
Yeah,
right?
If they meet again, it will be in the playoffs next week, as Cure is just trying to book his ticket as the first non-Protoss into the playoffs here in Season 3 of RSL. As we look at the map pool, Maganatha number 1, Tagamok on set number 2, and Botanical for set number 3. Maganatha was the game number 1 in their first series, where Cure went for a really aggressive siege tank push, I think on 2 bases, and was just able to absolutely destroy the third of Trigger. I wonder if he's going to run that back here to start things out in game number 1, as our map is loading in at Cure versus Trigger here in the final match of Group B. The winner going on into the playoffs. The loser is out of the RSL.
All right, guys, we're in this one now. It is Trigger down here in the bottom right, and it's Cure here in the top left. Look, Cure, he's very good at these technical openings that exploit the weaknesses Protoss have in the mid game. Remember that Classic, one of the things he's been pretty good at is he kind of, I think it's a balancing act for Protoss, because you can go out on the middle of the map and punish them if they're moving around, especially if they don't have a medevac, but you can lose to drops. You can get punished. Somehow Classic seems to know how to do that. I don't know that Trigger knows how to do that as well. And so I think Cure was able to kind of control the game and punish and pick Trigger apart. And it was an extremely fast series that you and Sort of casted.
Yeah, I think it might have been the fastest series that we've had thus far here in the RSL Season 3.
I think so, yeah.
It was mighty quick. And I feel like part of that is just because Trigger, it felt like both in Game 1 and in Game 2, was kind of caught off guard by the openings of Cure. I feel like Classic, just being a player who practices and trains in Korea, I'm sure that Cure is one of his sparring partners for PBT. They both can learn a lot from playing against each other. He's going to have a much better read on what styles and what to expect from Cure, whereas at Trigger, it just almost seemed like he had the wrong expectations going into the series. I know that Sorta mentioned that he had watched a lot of Cure's TVPs recently, and he's been playing a lot of macro games coming into this weekend, so maybe there's a little bit more of an expectation of that kind of style coming in from Cure. But in any case, those first 2 games, very aggressive there for Cure, and we'll see if the same thing's going to happen here in the second set that they play, final set of the day.
Yeah, let's see what Trigger's got here. Trigger, I'm still getting used to casting his games. He's one of the newer players that I've gotten to cast here out of the regulars that are out here in Korea. But I think that there is it's going to be hard for Kieran in some ways because he's been doing this matchup all day, right? Excuse me. He probably brought out the best of the best versus Classic to try to escape from the group. You can't be too redundant in your play, right? You can't be too predictable. I mean, this is the whole reason why we don't really do best of ones, right? Mm-hmm. Is that you need to have a couple chances. You can get a weird build pairing, something like that, but he's going to have some kind of variety. So I'm curious to see what exactly Kier's going to be doing differently. Now, in this game, we've got the Twilight Council on the way here on 2 bases. I would not be shocked if Trigger's taking a third pretty soon. And, with Kier, we're waiting to see, okay, is there going to be a quick third command center, or is this going to be some 2-base kind of sneaky stuff?
Yeah, and actually looks like it might be a Hellion drop coming in here from Cure. I'm wondering if he's going to queue up 2 more of these Hellions. I would love to see that one come in. Hellion drops, if they go unscattered. Oh, it's actually going to be 2 Widow Mines. All right, I like this as well. Yeah, the 4 Hellion drop or 2 Hellions just running into the natural expansion as you try to drop the main base with 2 Orb Prisms. These are moves that can get a lot of probe damage done in the early game in TVP. And Cure is one of these Terran players who really likes to get the ball rolling with that early game harassment.
Okay, so the Adept's going to come in here. It cannot fight the 2 Hellions as long as they're controlled well at all. He's going to split the damage on these. Oh! No, didn't work. All right, so Trigger lost that first Adept. That's unfortunate. The Hellion can just be repaired. And, yeah, I mean, we're going to see these Widow Mines come out as the Medevac's about to... Yeah, I was like, where's the Medevac?
Wow.
So he's going to have a pretty big drop here. Is it going to be 4 Widow Mines?
4 Widow Mines. Probably going into the main base, and I'm guessing 2 Hellions going into the natural expansion. That's a lot of factory production time.
That's some dirt, man.
It is some dirt.
That's some dirt right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of economic potential here for Cure. He can get a pretty good economic lead if he's able to take down a lot of workers with his harassment, but one of the problems with this here for Cure, one of the downsides is that it's a lot of factory building time, and so if he goes for a siege tank push, that siege tank production, it's a little bit late coming online. All right.
Okay.
4 Widow Mines now dropping here, the natural expansion. The Stalkers instead, they just focus on the Hellions, but maybe that's the right move because they blink over back down to the bottom right side. They're able to get the Medevac, and so far only 2 probes have gone down. And with the Observer here deployed, he's even able to take out these additional Widow Mines in the bottom right side without sacrificing any probes. So we're talking about how Cure might be able to get a lot done with all this factory production time, 4 Widow Mines and 2 Hellions, and it's basically nothing.
Yeah, when I saw all 4 come out, I'm like, Jesus, man.
Yeah.
That's. Are you sure this is a good idea? Like, don't you want 2 to go into the main or something like that? Very wasteful from Cure. So, I mean, he's made the game very hard for himself. I'll be honest. I don't think that's the hardest thing in the world for Protoss to stop.
Yeah, I almost think that if we had just gone for a 4 Hellion drop or 2 Hellions and 2 Widow Mine drop, maybe that would be better just because it would hit faster, ideally before Blink is done. But Blink just being done plus having an Observer there for Trigger, he's just got too many things online. It made dealing with that pressure very easy for Protoss.
Okay, he's going to chuck some turrets down here. And again, I think the Raven's going to get killed off here. Is there enough room for him to get away?
Yeah, just barely able to eke its way there into the bottom right corner.
I feel like Kira is playing one of the worst games we've seen. He has lost everything in that initial drop. He is now... His Raven is marooned in the bottom right corner, and it's going to be there for the rest of the game. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty bad, man.
Yeah, he definitely didn't get the economic damage done that he wanted to. He is going for a third command center as well, so if there is going to be a siege tank push at the third base here of Trigger, it's not going to be the full commitment like we saw in game number 1. In fact, I think it might only be 2 or 3 siege tanks done in total here for Kira, as it seems like he's more just winding up for a big macro game. Yeah, just 2 tanks done, so I feel like this is more of a defensive count of siege tanks. It's less likely that he's going to be pushing with these 2, although they might join the army later on. For now, they're just anchoring the position here in the main base natural.
Yeah, meanwhile, Trigger is going to go for double forages, so he's also going to be powering up. We could have a pretty long game on our hands here. The obs is going to come through. It looks like he sees it again. So Trigger is going to end up dropping his second observer, but I think you see everything that you need to see there, right? And so it's going to be a very kind of hungry, powering game here from both parties.
Yeah, and I wonder when Trigger's going to throw down the 4th base, because I think the moment that you see the 3rd CC coming in from Cure, you might not be feeling the pressure quite as much here as Trigger. You know that Cure isn't trying to end the game in the next minute. He's trying to posture for a later, longer game. And that's usually the cue for Protoss to start really ramping up the economic expansion with a 4th base coming in with additional infrastructure back in the main, and then potentially even a 5th nexus coming in just a few minutes.
Okay, so the push is going to come out. I remember that Trigger's lost like 2 observers so far, right? So he doesn't know. Wait. I'm sorry. Was that a hallucinated Phoenix that flew over that?
I think it was.
Okay, so he might actually see this. I'm wrong. He's going to try to move with this Raven. It's going to get killed.
Wow, and Trigger being really patient, not throwing down the 4th Nexus just yet. He knows that Cure wants to get some damage done, and Trigger is not taking any chances.
I thought for a second Trigger was going to hit with what I call a jump scare push, where I don't see the Terran leave, and then they're just suddenly there's like tanks outside my base. I'm like, whoa, what?
Jump scare push is a really good name for it, yeah. I feel like almost every push that I play against is a jump scare push. My scouting is so bad.
I literally have an observer outside their base, and then they're just like, I literally have seen it on the mini-map, but I didn't see it with my eyes. Anyways, we have a push coming in here. And, I mean, Trigger is absolutely dumpstering this army.
Wow.
Kira actually has more than I thought as he's running away. But Trigger handled that really, really well. So Kira's going to have to regroup here. Now, you got to be careful. You don't want to overextend. You know, if the Terran has an overwhelming amount, they can kind of ignore your Tier 1 units and just dive on top of the Colossi and everything else.
And I was watching that engagement, watching the Colossi, and it felt like basically every single shot was going on Marines. So I'm wondering if Trigger was manually controlling that wall, blinking forward and taking down the siege tanks. It was a beautiful engagement. I think it went much better than it should have by rights, but he caught Kira a little bit off guard, and now he's able to leverage some pressure here on the 3rd base of Terran. Zealot charging in. They are able to split the damage. A couple of them going for the Widow Mines, and then the rest going for the Marauders. And those Marauders, they don't dispatch the Zealots too quickly, but eventually they do chew through them, and the War Prism is going to have to get utilized here by Trigger to go on the retreat. He's able to save the Colossi as a result of that. And he was able to thin out a lot of the Terran Bio Ball. He was able to take out down a lot of these Widow Mines, which Kira just keeps incorporating into his gameplay. So that was a little bit of a win, but at the same time, the army for Trigger, it's not that large.
Yeah, it's not huge. I do think that it's a little bit easier for Terran to accumulate all the pieces of the puzzle for their army, right? You just need enough Medivacs, Marines, Marauders, and then you get some other stuff put in there. But Protoss, you know, if they lose like all their Colossi, or they lose, you know, even the War Prism as an example in a push like this, it could be pretty bad. So it seems like what Trigger wants to do is attack in. I don't know if he should be attacking in on 3 bases. I feel like he might end up feeding into Cure, but he's certainly positioned to do that. He might be waiting for that 4th command center to land.
Yeah, Trigger feels like he is antsy for one more push. Warp Sin 5. Wow, Warp Sin 5 Templar. He's turning them into Archon, so he is not going for Storm. And this is just a telltale sign that Protoss wants to fight. He's got 2 sentries, 1 likely for Guardian Shield, 1 for maybe a couple of force fields there to try and section off the bio, potentially at this ramp. And honestly, with how aggressive that Trigger is posturing this, especially with the Archons being morphed in, I'm wondering if he's even going to wait for Cure to try and take a 4th base. He might just go with that 3rd.
Okay. We're about to have 2-2 finish up here. And, you know, it's quieted down a little bit here. Kira's still powering up. He's going to get these ghosts. Those are going to be really important. But it's mostly Archons here, right? I don't see Templars in the mix. He's not going for Storm here. He's going for a different composition. So, obviously, EMP can be good against Archons, right? They're all shields, but it's a little bit different than if you EMP Templars where they just don't have the attack, right? If Trigger attacks in, this is going to be interesting. I feel like this is a little bit dangerous, but he's going for it.
All right, Trigger pushing in on two sides right now. That's so many Marauders. More Marauders than Marines here for Cure, but the Zealot count for Trigger is just absolutely massive. The Archons are chewing through absolutely everything here at the third base. The medevacs get decimated. The Bio has to retreat, and Cure is going to be tapping out. That was a very well-played game by Trigger.
The dream is alive. Maybe we have 4 Protosses advancing first here in the RSL. Exactly what this tournament needs.
Oh boy.
I gotta say, I think Trigger played very well. Cure's decisions early on were a little bit weird.
Yeah, the build order
4
selection.
Widowmine drop on 1 natural?
Yeah.
It's like, you think all the Widowmines are gonna get hits? What are we doing?
It was an interesting choice for sure.
I didn't get it.
Yeah. Also, just the build order selection of going for 4 Widowmines and the 2 Hellions as well. That's so much production time on the factory that when he actually moved into the natural expansion, Trigger already had Blink done. And I wonder if there's just something that Kara is trying to metagame maybe a little bit here versus Trigger, because there has to be a reason that he's doing this build, right? It's the final match to try and qualify for the playoffs here in RSL Season 3, so he's not going to be doing this willy-nilly, something that's untested. This is going to be something that he has practiced and has been working for him. But yeah, I don't really see what it does with those 4 Widowmines going into natural expansion as well as the Hellions. Now, maybe if Trigger's a little bit overextended trying to cover, say, the main base and the natural, then maybe just focusing on the natural expansion, pay some dividends, like the probes, they run away from the Widowmines, maybe they bunch up for the Hellions. But yeah, in any case, it didn't pay off at all. Trigger felt like he had a very big lead there in the early game. And in a momentum-based matchup like PVT, that was really all he needed to get his system rolling.
So we're going to go into game 2 now. Right now, Trigger is halfway through exacting his revenge on Cure. Cure, I think a rocky decision in the early game will ripple into the later part of the game, right? And, a lot of time, and we've all had StarCraft games like this where we make a mistake early on, and it's like, we're not dead, but like now this is going to be the hardest part of the day. The hardest game you're going to play all day is trying to figure out how to somehow get a lead in a very difficult position here.
Yeah, Trigger spawning in the top right, Cure down in the bottom left. This Trigger is only 1 map win away from joining 3 other Protoss players in the RSL playoffs here for RSL Season 3. So we're getting ready to be at the halfway point here in the group stage of the RSL.
Okay. So, let's see what Cure wants to do. I mean, it does feel like he's... The longer the game goes, the worse it will be ultimately for him. I mean, he got smashed so badly. I didn't even appreciate how strong Trigger's army was as he pushed. And I thought, really? Are you sure you want to do that on 3 bases? Like, feels like Terran has the most they can fight with and still positionally is comfortable on 3 bases. But Trigger said, tasteless, watch this. And then, we watched literally, 60 supply just disappear.
Yeah, I think the early game just went so well for Trigger that he felt super comfortable. And the timing also was sick. He hit right when 2-2 had finished up, and he had a bunch of Archons added into the mix, which gives a lot of sustain adding into the Zealots because Cure played such a Marauder-heavy style that Cure just could not get through that front line. And it happened right when the first Ghosts were popping out, too. So there wasn't even EMP available on the clumped-up Zealots, onto the Archons, which would have gone a long way to reducing the total HP value of Trigger's army. So it was just an immaculately timed attack. I honestly think that if he had waited until Cure had a 4th base, he might have not been able to break him. That was just the perfect timing that Trigger could have done.
So for now, we wait for the factory to finish and see if it's going to be a starport and some kind of cocktail of Terran units. There's so many different things Terran can try to set up here in the mid-game to try to punch a hole here into the Protoss. But I definitely don't want to see that quad Widowmine drop again.
We're getting a tech lab on the factory, so I don't think you're going to have to see it tasteless. Instead, it's going to be a Cyclone first, and we've had Cure play this kind of approach a couple of times so far today, and I feel like basically every time it has culminated into a siege tank push. With his first Cyclone, as well as a handful of Marines just getting some map presence, and then the follow-up siege tank push, either targeting the natural expansion or the 3rd base of Protoss based on the tempo of the attack. See, Depp comes right back up the ramp, trying to find as much information as it can.
And right now, we're just seeing, okay, so there's a 2nd barracks here, so it's going to be a little bit of 2-basery.
Yeah.
And this is going to be off of Blink, probably Blink Expand, unless we see a bunch of gateways thrown down.
Okay, so he's not going into siege tank production right away. Instead, he's going to use that factory to try and get another tech lab out. That makes a lot of sense given the eco here. Oh no, that mule. Didn't get a lot of mining done before it got taken out there by Trigger, as these adepts eventually will get cleaned up. Oh, that marine going down there too. Honestly, I think that's worth it there for Trigger. You get those adepts to get scouting information and just apply a little tiny bit of pressure here versus Cure, and you get it plus a nice cocktail of the mule and, what, 1 or 2 marines? It's a good trade, especially because behind this, I think he's actually going 4-gate blink.
Yeah, he is. Well, he's at least 3-gate for now, but I would assume the 4th is there.
I think it's I think he has the 4th at the natural expansion. Yeah, 4-gate
blink.
blink.
You well done. Okay.
Is that the second test?
You passed my second
all
test.
Right, let's go. I'm ready for the next day of RSL.
Yeah. I'm like, the next one's coming soon. We'll find it if you see it in this ZVZ that we're casting. Okay, so he's going to come up, and there is a blind spot here, but he's not going to take advantage of it. He's just going to kind of roll out everything as the medevac comes in. And, yeah, I mean, you see what's happening here. He spots the 2 other gateways just now making warp gates, so that would mean that they just finished. So he knows this is 4-gate. So you can use this medevac as a pin. I don't know. He's like, what am I?
This is painful.
Watching him get chased into the open in the map.
Oh, no.
Oh, man. Now, that's what I call a game of StarCraft II.
Yeah, and it's even worse because this is a 4-gate blink build. It's not a 3-gate blink build. Losing that medevac and all of that supply, that was 9 supply of army, just completely wiped off the map. That is
so funny because like he tried to be fancy, and then he's like, oh, no, they're going to get underneath me. And then eventually it's like he's shot out over the natural. I'm not saying the game's going to end, but I'm saying it could end. So the problem is there's not a whole lot to fight here with this. So he's going to just blink on the tanks. He's going to actually switch the tank shots up. So within 3 volleys, everything's dead. He's now going to target down the bunker, and there's no SCVs repairing.
SCV's actually not even pulled yet here from Cure, only just now pulling the SCV, so no repair, no front line here for the Terran, as Trigger is blinking back these injured stalkers. They're all deep in the red and the orange, so he might have to continue retreating back before this next siege tank gets a good shot off. Okay, only 1 stalker going down. If it was able to hit a cluster of these low HP stalkers, it could have been a lot worse for Trigger, but now Trigger moving down to the bottom right side of the expansion. That means Cure has to inch forward here with his siege tank, and Trigger, he doesn't blink on it. It is the safe thing. He retreats back instead.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of damage has already been done. You're always unstable until you get your 3rd tank out versus this. And he's actually just going to come right in from behind. And, you know, the problem is that you just sort of avoid the tank, right? And you wouldn't believe how painfully long it feels to try to unsiege that tank and relocate it. So he's going to go back out. Now, behind this, he's expanding. He's, you know, I think you can be in a situation like this, both super aggro and just continuing to grow. And you're certainly not all in with what Trigger's doing, right? Like right now, the Terran is playing this game, right, with 2 black eyes. And the beating is not done yet.
Yeah, the 4-gate blink had already got its job done. The siege tanks were taken out, a ton of bio, and I think even SCVs fell there versus Trigger. And as a result, he's able to safely take his 3rd Nexus. He's now adding additional gateways in the Forge. And this could go a couple of different ways here for Trigger, but it seems like he's just going to go beast mode here as Protoss. He's going to add in additional gateways. He's going to add in Immortals. He's not going to tech up. He's just going to make the most powerful army that he possibly can right now. And that means that if Cure pushes out against this, it could go very badly. Ideally, if you know this is happening as Terran, you're going to try and play very safely back at home and play for the long game. Kind of similar to the way that Bunny did in day 1, where you just try to mitigate all of this early advantage there by Trigger by slowly ballooning up and safely ballooning up to a max supply and just letting the Protoss boom. But
I think in his head he's thinking, I've died every time the game goes on long. There's an observer stalking this. And he hasn't scanned to kill it yet. He might not have a scan, but like this is getting pretty brutal. And I mean, these tanks are getting wrecked before the Immortal even fires its first shot. And he doesn't have enough to load this up. Oh, load it up? That was a funny thing I said back there. You can't load up anything without a medevac.
Oh man, it's even worse. Warp Prism, Zealots, and Stalkers coming into the natural expansion here of Cures. There's 1 Marine drop in the main base of Trigger. We'll get some damage done, but as the forces converge here, the natural expansion of Cure, I'm not sure he can hold on Tasteless.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. He does unpower some of the infrastructure. 3 gateways out of commission, but that was after the warping, so that drop's going to get cleaned up. There's like more Protoss units than there are Marines right now. He's going to just throw these units up into the front. And a lot of times when you sit on production like this, the game just ends.
Yeah, I think it's very close to ending. If this Warp Prism is able to stay alive and get one more big Warp in off, I think it might just be over. The SCV count, it is plummeted down to 14. GG is called, and Trigger is going to advance into the playoffs of RSL.
I always told you guys I hated all the matchups except for PvP. And that's why I'm smiling right now.
I think you're going to hate PvP by the time we're done with this.
Yeah. Wow. Trigger crushes Cure. I did not see that coming, especially with how well Cure played in those games. Cure played pretty badly in that game. SCV's not repairing the bunker.
It was a little bit rough there.
Yeah.
For Cure.
4 Widowmine drop?
Yeah, with the 2 Hellions, 2 in the natural expansion.
But here's the idea, is if he doesn't pull his workers in time, which pros always do, then you kill all of the workers at the that are mining there.
Yeah.
So poor performance from Cure, but the reality is Protoss is still looking good.
Yeah, they really are. Honestly, 4 Protoss is already advancing over Solar, Bunny,
now before
and Cure.
Before you make a Reddit post complaining about Protoss, just hold on. We're not done closing the show out yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go show you guys the group standings. It is Max Pack, Sound, Classic, and Trigger. Moving on right now. Cure creators, Solar, and Bunny are dead. Tomorrow, Hero, Gerald, Shin, and Bjorn will be playing. And then, of course, Group D on Saturday, Raynor, SOS, Ryung, and Maru.
That's going to be a really fun group. I'm looking forward to Group D. Raynor and SOS, Ryung and Maru. Those are some really fun matchups. I wonder what SOS is going to bring to the table, the other Protoss players. They've been showing a variety of styles here. We got a new patch. Usually when you have a new patch and a new map pool, that's when Protoss shines, because things aren't really solved just yet.
Yeah, you know, SOS, I've said this a long time ago, but it's still true today. He's probably my favorite player to cast of all time.
Yeah, for
I've
sure.
had more fun cast. I've probably learned more about just RTS in general watching him play. He's the Protoss's Protoss. What can you say?
Yeah, similar to Classic, I feel like he's gotten a little bit more macro with age, but I'm always going to be nostalgic.
When I was young, and I'm more of a macro Protoss here. Right?
We matured.
We mature. We stop cheesing so much, and we go, listen, I got to get a 4th base this time. Guys, this is our schedule. So the RSL is not smaller in scope. It's the same size as Season 1 and 2, but our friends over at SC Boy, they had a big StarCraft live event planned. They had already booked the venue, and their thing overlapped with our finals, and we thought, okay, well, like, we own this space, right? So we moved it for them, and then that got canceled, but we didn't want to move the schedule back, so we just said, all right, well, we already committed to this. We don't want to make too many announcements moving stuff around. So the reason why I'm saying this is week 2, it's going to be double days. So that's going to be an insane 4 days of StarCraft II. It's basically 8 broadcasts of RSL. It's going to start earlier in the day. It's going to start at 4. That's 16:30 is 4:30 p.m. Right?
Yeah.
This is why.
It's like he's just like, oh, these Americans.
Ziggy knows military time. Let's ask him. So we're going to start at 4:30 p.m. KST, and it's going to end when it's going to end. But it should be super long days. So join us for that, and then. We got the offline finals coming up, but I'll talk about that in a second. First of all, Archon Studio.
StarCraft tabletop miniatures game.
We're like an Archon. We're both saying it at the same time. So they're the best tabletop miniatures game.
I don't know what you're trying to say, Tasteless. The official partner for the RSL in season 1, 2, and 3, baby. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. That's how we do it.
It's like a speech jam where you're repeating me like half a second later. It's really hard to talk.
So this is the Zeratul model. Obviously, this is not the entire set, but we got this early. It was so crazy when I finally got this and like opened the package, and I saw
it's really cool. You know what this makes me nostalgic for is going back. This is like, man, I feel dated. Going back to like Walmart or Target as a kid and like looking at the boxes of PC games that they have on display. I kind of get this. Kind of feels like looking at like the Wings of Liberty box a little bit.
I end up like downloading most of my games. I don't even on console now.
Yeah.
But then you don't have that like physical thing. You go, yeah, I had this game. Anyways,
awesome.
Guys, you check this out. Go to their website at Archon Studios. They got a ton of great stuff on there. They're supporting us again this season. We love them. We love what they do. And I got to say, just looking at the miniature, it rings true to the StarCraft universe. Like, it looks like it's right out of the game. It's so cool. Guys, if you want to support StarCraft 2 and our mission here to carry the torch on and create seasonal professional broadcasts, broadcast tournaments for StarCraft II, consider joining our Patreon. We know that there are a couple weekend events, and there's obviously a lot of stuff online and community-driven events, but our goal is basically to make something really well-produced that felt smooth, that was organized. So we have like a little production team here with us. We want to have the casters together, because I think, speaking as a caster myself, I think you've just put out a much better broadcast, a much more informative broadcast. If you can see your broadcaster being right next to you. So consider signing up. We'll take a little, we'll take a lot, whatever you're able to give. We really appreciate. We've also got a ton of great merch. We've got mugs, hoodies, pins, T-shirts, 20% off if you are a Patreon supporter.
Yeah, and tastelessthreads.com. It's also going to be the site that you go to pick up your tickets if you want to make it to the offline finals of the RSL happening in December 13th and 14th, live in Seoul, Korea, with an audience, with the players in-house, with a caster in-house. Everybody's going to be there. Pick up your tickets. We got regular tickets as well as premium tickets with a ton of perks available on tastelessthreads.com. We would love to have you join us.
Yeah, we would love to have you there. And don't forget, if you participated in any of the qualifiers or the main tournament for RSL, you can sign up for the LCQ. So you can actually come down and participate. The first day of the event is going to be a big tournament to see who's going to survive and make it in that final fourth spot here for day 2, where we're going to be crowning an offline champion. The venue, it's by Yeoksam Station, in between Yeoksam Station and Sunlung Station. And so go ahead and sign up. We've still got spots available. And I don't know. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous just getting the whole thing set up, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be rewarding when it's all done. Any closing thoughts, State?
Man, just excited for more RSL. I kind of hope we don't get another Protoss player qualify. We already have four
Hey, man,
with the Protoss players.
This happens sometimes.
It's crazy.
Every once in a while, you're like, well, I mean, I'm happy for him, but there's too many of them.
I'm a Protoss player. Guys, calm down.
Yeah.
You got to take a couple L's, okay? We don't want to get the nerf hammer too soon.
Yeah.
Take it easy, okay?
It feels like they changed Protoss around, but they're still pretty good at what they do. We're going to be back on tomorrow and the day after that, same time, same place. So until then, we'll see you. Bye-bye.